What is the preparation like compared to the actual run?
Being honest with yourself and having the right mindset's the first start. You guys read Inner Excellence?
I've read a little bit of it.
One guy's mantra was, I expect nothing, I am capable of everything. Even like podcasts, you know how many people would love to do this, but don't have the guts to start? Even putting the time out and reaching out to guests, it's very impressive, I gotta say that.
Thank you.
Well, where did the drive for running like really start?
Yeah.
I couldn't go out there. I mean, I could try, but like what you do, bro, I couldn't do that right now.
First of all, you can. Don't ever say I can't. Always say
sorry.
I haven't yet. It's funny, I hated running my whole entire life. Furthest I ran was 2 miles. I met my wife, me and her go on our first trip together. The hotel we stay at, I'll do my regular workout. My wife starts running on a treadmill. I get on the treadmill and walk, and I'm like, whatever. I ended up at 3. I was like, I could have did more.
Do people use that when they run full marathons?
All elite athletes use that. Look at the Olympics, how many people have gotten popped. You guys watch football? Do you know who Peyton Manning is? HGH was getting mailed to his house, and they called him for it. And had his wife's name on the box, so he got away with it.
Oh, really?
Liver King.
Dude was on gear from day one, man. The thing I try to do every single night, and the first thing I do is pray. I don't ask for anything. I thank God for everything I have. I don't think that we are supposed to understand God.
When Adam and Eve sinned, banished from a perfect place, do we ever get to that perfect place where God is, right? Jesus Christ comes on earth to die on the cross for us. A punishment that he didn't deserve. He simply did it because of us. After his death, 3 days later, he resurrects. None of us are good people. We don't go to heaven because we're good people. And through the Savior, who is Jesus Christ.
If you believe or don't believe in God, what would you ask him the day that you meet him? Even if you don't believe in him.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Bros Think Big. We got Bill Craven back on our podcast. It's been 1 year and he's back. Thank you for coming on, man.
It's welcome. A pleasure.
Welcome, Bill.
You guys have an official setup, the desk, the Bible, everything's beautiful in here. You guys are killing it.
Thank you, bro.
Doing
Thank
your
you.
best, man.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why we wanted to bring you on, I was actually thinking, is I just love having conversation with you, and I'm not even like joking. I'm straight up, because every time we had an episode with you, it was just so natural, and you're just such a humble guy, so driven, good mindset. And it's hard to find people who are honest about what they do and actually live up to it. Because people will say one thing and do the other, or they're just not as consistent. But what I've been seeing from your stuff on Instagram, you're running, posting the motivational stuff, actually the results speaking for itself too on what you have achieved. Yeah, to you might not be a lot, but in my opinion, running a full marathon with 6-minute pace, dude, that's incredible.
Well, let me start off by saying the feeling's mutual. I love coming here and talking to you guys, and it is very easy to talk to every one of you. You ask amazing questions, and I think you give the audience exactly what they're thinking, like the next question they want to hear, and you guys do a great job with that, and I can't compliment you enough. But
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
When it comes to the whole running thing, you guys inspire me too. I mean, you guys are killing it at the gym. I see all the videos and pictures you guys post. It's very inspiring to me.
Thank you. And when like-minded people gather and stuff, we can just have such a good conversation and a lot to offer to people who are listening. But where has the journey been with you with running and stuff? Because you know what's funny? I was actually watching our old episode to pick out maybe some questions to ask, and I heard that you were saying that you ran a half marathon with under 1 hour and 20 minutes or something. But I bet now you can probably do it so much faster, because I ran in 1 minute 14 or something. 1 hour and 14.
You ran it in 1 hour and 14 minutes, a half marathon?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or because what happened with us is we ran 5K and then it was 10 miles. No, it was 10 miles because they separated for us.
Yeah, they broke it up.
Yeah, exactly. For you, it was probably full on 13.
Straight through, yeah.
Okay.
But that's
then
still
I'm
impressive.
guessing it would probably be around 1 hour, 30 to 40 minutes, if I had to guess. But
I mean, 1 hour and 14, that's like what the sub-elite athletes are running, for...
Really?
Yeah, they run... I seen Clayton Young, who's probably the second-ranked American male. He just did, I believe, the Atlanta half, and that was like a big field. I think he finished 13th overall, and he was like a 112 or something like that for his
dude, then I might be getting it wrong. Maybe it was 2 hours and 14.
I don't know. Dude,
maybe. What would be the pace for that? Like roughly.
So like for
because it was 8 minutes for me.
So 1 hour and 14 minutes, I would guess that's somewhere around like 5 minute miles or under.
Then I'm lying, guys. I'm lying. No, I don't know. I remember it like that, but
Maybe it was 2 hours.
Yeah. I think it was 2 hours.
Still
and 14
impressive to be able to do it. I mean,
it was 8 minute pace that we did, and you do 6 minute pace.
Right? For the last half I did, it was I finished in like an hour and 20 flat, and it was like 6:04 or 6:05 pace. But that was a week after I did the New York City Marathon, so I was on dead legs right there. But that's no excuse. I was very happy with it. It was still a personal record for me, so I was very happy with that.
Yeah, we were actually talking before we started filming, and you said it's the preparation that is way bigger than doing the run itself. Because what I told you is, it's like, yo, imagine running that much. But then you said it's all about preparing. The run is just kind of like an accomplishment of all the hard work that you did. So what is the preparation like compared to the actual run?
So I think being honest with yourself and having the right mindset's the first start, because when it comes down to it, like most people want to get out and they're like, oh, I want to run this or run that, and just honestly haven't ran enough. And the thing with running is it's like fitness or any business or whatever. You get exactly what you put in, right? And it takes a long time, and it does get very it starts to mess with your head, especially a lot of like the hard training, like the speed work, the heavier cardio sessions, to where like sometimes you even question whether it's fun or not, because you're like dying, but you just gotta remember, it's like you have to be in the moment, and like you're gonna get through this workout, and then you keep going. Like sometimes people get too hung up on times and paces, and what happens is they don't even make it fun for themselves. Like I just read a book, I don't know if you guys read Inner Excellence.
No, I've read a little bit of it, a couple chapters.
So I like the end of the book where they're talking to the athletes, and the athletes are telling them about how Inner Excellence changed their lives and working with Jim Murphy. And he said the one guy's mantra was, I say to myself all day, I expect nothing, I am capable of everything. Because if you go in with expectations and you don't perform to them expectations, you're going to be very disappointed. You could have something like a great day, have this great accomplishment, and it means nothing because you're comparing yourself to other people. They often say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And I think when you put no expectations on something and you really just give it everything you have, you're a lot happier. Like I remember last year for Broad Street, for instance, I set a time I wanted to run for myself, and I achieved it. You know how long that happiness lasted? About 5 minutes, and I was on to the next thing. So you're constantly always trying to climb this ladder, and you have to remind yourself that it's just a blessing to be able to do what you are every day. Like there's so many sick people. There's so many people that want, even like podcasting. You know how many people would love to do this, but don't have the guts to start, or just make constant excuses. Like you guys are out here living the dream right now, and it's very inspirational that like you guys have put everything into it, whether it's camera, lenses, microphones, stands, soundboards, all that, and then even putting the time out and reaching out to guests. It's very impressive. I gotta say that.
Thank you. You know what's another thing about that mindset itself is being grateful for what you have and not thinking too far in the future, because that's the mistake that people make, right? We had a lot of conversations with a lot of guests, but you literally brought it up, is people think that the pace that they run at or whatever it might be has to be improved today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They don't look at it as a long-term effect. Just the fact that you're able to run today and do your best and give your best is what matters. The next day will be you doing the same thing, and then when you compare the difference on how you did last year to this year, it will be an improvement, not because you just did something magical overnight. Mm-hmm. It's because the work just accumulated. Mm-hmm. You're putting your best effort every single day.
Like that one thing I like to say about that too is it can't all be results, because for me, like when I look at things, there's so many things that are just out of your control. And when you realize that, you could come to peace with things. Like, for instance, like if you're running a marathon, and the only reason I'm using this is because it's something I know a little bit about. You could get there, it could be 60, 70 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds. You're not, all that training you just did, you're not going to run your best. It doesn't matter what you did in training because the wind's going to knock you down like 5 to 10%. And then the heat, that drains all the salt right out of your body. So there's chances you could cramp, you lose sodium, water. So there's only so much on the course. So like with anything in life, when you set a goal, you just have to understand that a lot of things are out of your control, and you got to kind of just keep pushing forward and go, okay, it didn't happen today, but guess what? I have an opportunity in 6 months, or I could have an opportunity in a year. I better be ready for that one. And if that happens again, just keep, kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, like a healthy mindset on things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, where did your drive for running really start?
Yeah,
because who's out here really running wake up I'm gonna go run a marathon, you know what I mean? Where do you get that from?
That's why it's 1% or 0.01% for a full marathon.
I respect I couldn't go out there. I mean, maybe I could try, but what you do, bro, I couldn't do that right now at all.
One thing I want to tell you is, first of all, you can, and second of all, don't ever say I can't. Always say I just haven't yet.
Yeah.
I haven't yet. But it's funny. I hated running my whole entire life. My whole entire life, I hated it. I couldn't run. The furthest I ran was 2 miles, and I didn't do any speed. I remember people would tell me they ran like a 5K, and I would be so impressed. It was like the biggest achievement. Right? No, it's hard. For everyone.
Depends what your goal is. If you're trying to run 5K with under, let's say, 5 minutes, of course it's going to be hard.
I say this to
just
people
to run
all the time.
Normally.
Just because I'm trained doesn't mean I'm not hurting like you are out there or the next person, because I'm running just as hard as you. My heart rate's just as up as much as yours. The only difference is we're just going at different paces. So it's just as hard for me as it is for you during a race, because if we both run it correctly, which is, I don't want to say correctly, but just as hard as we can. But
then there's forms to it. There's also, what you eat, how do you prepare yourself?
Yeah.
As well as just the ability to, because here's the thing though, in my opinion, I have deviated septum, and I think that might get in the way of breathing. It definitely
does.
Yeah. So when you don't have that, then you're going to perform better. That's not to say it's an excuse that you have deviated septum, but you'll just perform a little bit better, no?
What I want to... I just want to finish answering your question real quick, and I'm going to get right in yours. How I got started was, I swear this is the truth, I was probably 15 pounds lighter than I am now. And I was...
What was that? What weight was that?
I was anywhere from 160 to 165. Mm-hmm. I gained about 15 pounds just through running. And anyway, I was going...
lean mass, right?
A lot of it's leg muscles. Because obviously your legs are your biggest muscle. A ton of it's hydration. Before I was constantly dehydrated because I wanted to look as ripped as possible, That was my goal, which is kind of stupid looking at it now, but I liked it. But anyway, so I met my wife. Me and her go on our first trip together. So we're down in Savannah, Georgia, and then we're going to Florida. So the first hotel we stay at, I was like, I'll do my regular workout, which is a ton of core, push-ups, pull-ups, and stuff. That's what I do every day. And I was like, I'll hit the bike. So me and my wife now go down to the gym. And they had a Peloton there, but the problem with the Peloton is you need the shoes. If you don't have the shoes, you can't ride the bike. So they didn't have any shoes that fit me. So my wife starts running on treadmills because she runs a little, but nothing too crazy. She just does it for exercise.
That thing that you guys did, is that one you're talking about when you guys were first married? You guys did that as a challenge?
Yeah. We did that 48.6 miles in 4 days.
Is that the one you're talking about, or is it a different one?
No, this is a separate one. Okay. We did that 2 years later. Okay. But anyway, I get on the treadmill and walk, and I'm like, whatever. I was like, oh, she's running, let me kick it up. So I kept bumping it up. I remembered I always ran out of shape. So running to me was impossible. I always ran the wrong way. I tried to run as fast as I can for short periods of time, which is kind of the wrong way to run. I mean, I don't want to tell anyone how to do it, but so then I kept bumping it up, and it was easy. I was doing the elliptical on the bike every morning So I was like, I put running on this pedestal, and it wasn't really that hard. I was just doing it wrong for years.
Yeah.
And so after that, I was just hooked, and I was just running every chance I got. So then I didn't do my first race until like, that was in November. I didn't do my first race until May. And then I was hooked by the atmosphere. That got me right away. I was like, to have all them people out there cheering for you and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end, you get the medal, and, you know, like, you're proud of what you did, especially the first one. You're like super proud. I know you ran.
I'm going to talk a little bit about like what it was like, dude, because
but
I'm telling you, it's
to answer your question, that's exactly how I got started. And
just like one day, you're just like, I'm gonna try this run. I'm gonna try this treadmill, and then
I was like, I gotta burn more calories. I'm walking right now. Like, I gotta close these rings out, you know. And that's how.
You see your wife run, and you're like, I can probably top that.
It was funny. I was like, I'll just go for like a mile or two, and then like I ended up at 3, and I got off. And when I got off, I was like, you know, I could have did more. And then I had to be humbled a little bit here and there through shin splints and different things because my legs weren't used to it. Everyone, like, people get shin splints in the beginning. They're like, oh, I just can't run. No, you just need to rest. You need some new shoes, and you're back at it, you know?
Yeah, and get your body used to it, because I would get that too when we were running. Me and Josh were preparing for it, dude. Like, one day would be good, and then the second day would just be terrible, or the next week would just be terrible. You just have to get through those moments. And then you realize that when you actually run the marathon, it's actually not even that bad. Like, that's what happened with me. Maybe it was the atmosphere too, taking a break.
The adrenaline.
The adrenaline, for sure. And just the fact that you're running beside your friend, and you know that you both have to keep up with each other, and you have to, you know, keep going until that finish line. And you see some people passing by you. You're passing by some other people. It's just, this gives you an understanding that, yo, let me just keep going. I don't need to stop. I don't have to stop. And we actually prepped really well too in terms of diet. I mean, tell me if we did this right, but we had pasta the night before to carb up, and then the next morning just had a bagel with like a bagel bread with peanut butter and bananas on it. That was perfect.
A ton of people do that.
Yeah, because then I later found out that when you actually mix carbs and protein together, it's a very good combination for running and for long-term exercise. So like, we ran for 2 hours. That was the best source, and we didn't need anything after that.
The only thing I typically try to stay away from when I'm carbing up, I didn't start doing it until lately either. I used to just run off what I ate the day before or whatnot. But they say to stay away from like high fatty foods that are carbohydrates. I don't know why. It's just things I see.
Stay away from fats when it comes to running long distance? Or?
When you're carbing up.
Oh, okay.
I think somehow it may cause stomach distress, or it may do something with the carbohydrates. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me, but I know that's what they typically tell you.
No, that makes sense, because I think because it's harder for the body to digest it and turn it into energy. When you're running, it takes time for it to turn into energy, and when your body needs it, it kind of doesn't know what to do with it, and takes away from the other stuff, that unnecessary stuff. But carbs turn into glucose, and then that's just a quick energy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing people don't understand about the way glucose and fat work. So fat gets burned at a lower heart rate. It does at a higher heart rate too, but your body, when it gets above a certain heart rate, is going to burn glucose first. And that's why you want to carb up. So you have 2 full storage tanks of energy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what it says is that because fats slow down the process of digestion.
Okay.
It takes a while for kind of fats to kind of digest, and so when you add carbs into the mix, it just slows the releasing process of it. So it's not like quick energy. It takes time for you to kind of tap into that, versus you filling up with glycogen right there and then with protein and carbs, and then you're all full. It hits just like that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you have the information, because I sure as heck didn't. You know?
It's almost like if you were to have a furnace, it's like putting a big giant tree trunk versus a twig. Like the twig's gonna burn just like that, and it's quick. Versus if you put the twig under the big log, and it's just like, okay, what do we?
Exactly.
It's almost like that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. So, go ahead. Yeah, you ask.
I was gonna say, because when it comes to like the running part too, like you said that you started with the treadmill and stuff, but when you started going up and up and up with like the marathons, like longer and longer and longer, like what made you want to do that? Like how come it started with this one thing, like, oh, I'm gonna go 1 mile or 2 miles on the treadmill to now running marathons? Like what was really the initial motivation to do that?
I think so I kind of have two different answers for this. The marathon, it was so appealing after the 10-mile race that I was like, well, I got to try this, you know? And then my brother-in-law says to me, he's like, well, you know, if you're going to try this, we're going to get you as fast as possible. I said, all right. So I'm just messing around. Like I'm new to running content on YouTube. I'm watching. And I see two separate videos. I see these people running. It's about the whole Boston Marathon course. And it's going into the whole thing, the Newton Hills and Heartbreak Hill and the Wellesley Scream Tunnel and like, you know, just like all the history on it. I was like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that. And then like the second thing was I seen a video and it was like mile 18 to 26 is like considered death's doorstep. And like you just see people's faces like during these miles and it's just like pure agony, like to
why there? Why 18 to 26?
So I think what happens is if you don't fuel correctly or you don't train correctly, your body's going to give out. And a lot of people, they call it hitting the wall. And when you hit the wall and you go lactic, you can't really perform anymore. Like you could finish still, but it's going to be extremely painful.
Yeah, I think you talked about that last time too. It happened to you. You said you even said it. You were running, and in the middle of the run, your body just couldn't do anything anymore.
A few training runs,
stopped.
I got humbled early, and but it like the whole training's so cool because it's practice for race day. So you're constantly doing different things. Like when I would do workouts, I would try and hammer them as hard as I could in the beginning, like as fast as I could, and then I realized I'm like, well, I'm cheating myself out of the later reps. Like if I'm doing 3 reps of something, the last 2 are going to be dramatically slower and they're going to slow down my average to where I learned that, okay, we're going to not run this as fast and we're going to have 3 solid reps instead of 1 solid rep or 1 really good rep and 2 okay.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Talk about those challenging pathways that they call. We had when we did our rocket run. It was drag oil. So it was going up the hill. Yeah. You said something about the tunnel. It was different names. So how did they really structure on what the challenge is going to be for a specific race? Because I'm pretty sure they all have one challenging spot where they kind of challenge the runners on, right?
So basically, the thing, like Philly Marathon's a pretty fun course. There's a couple hills in Fairmount, but it's not too bad. It's relatively flat. I ran New York in the fall. That's considered the hardest world major right now out of the 6, not including Sydney.
I'm going to take on that.
You could.
New York? Okay.
But like I was...
How big is the hill or how steep?
The first hill you go across is the first mile of the race. And it's the Verrazano Bridge. And it's like... It's the highest peak of the race. So everyone comes out going as fast as they can up this bridge and you just burn yourself out. Yeah. But the smart people don't do that. You know, they try and go at an average pace knowing they have 25 miles to break it up. But New York was tough because there's the Queensboro Bridge, which is a huge incline. And then after you do all these bridges, I can't remember the street, but it's right next to Central Park. It's around mile 22 or something like that. And there's this little incline to it. It's like...
In New York?
Yeah. Okay. If you were just running down the street, like that was your first mile, you probably wouldn't even notice it like that. But like I'm running this thing and like, you know, you feel your hamstrings tight because you just went through all that. And I was literally watching people around me like blow their hamstrings out, like not like blow them out, but they started cramping bad, and you have to stop right immediately. Like you can't run through that. Then you get into Central Park, and there's a few more people stopped and stuff. So like that can kind of ruin your race right there. And then just going on to Boston, I'm running that in a little over a month. So Boston starts out. The first half of the race is downhill. So if you come out going too fast, you can blow out your quads later in the race, because when you're going downhill, it's all quads. When you're going uphill, it's hamstrings. So
I would think it was quads up the hill, but yeah, I guess
it's hamstrings. It's the back, because you're pushing.
You're kind of pushing off.
So what the tricky part about Boston is, you go, oh, that's no problem. You know, it's net downhill race. When you get to mile 16 through 20, it's all uphill. There's 4 different hills with inclines. So if you go too fast on that downhill, them 4 hills and them 4 miles, they're going to beat you up. So it's a lot of strategy. It's very interesting it's an interesting challenge in order to run the marathon, and I found that appealing, kind of. For sure.
No, I want to speak on my experience too, because when Josh told me about running a half marathon, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I know he was the only one that was doing it before I even found out that our other friend was also doing it, Zach. But I was like, I'm not gonna let him do it alone. I'm gonna be there. We're gonna push each other. We're gonna do it together. And then we were preparing for it, but the actual run itself, it's such a good experience, because I would definitely suggest anybody definitely do a marathon. It's so mental and strategic and physical. You might not think that, because you're going to be like, I'm going to run 10 miles easy. But preparing is actually even the hardest part.
Yeah.
For me, preparing was harder than the run itself. The run is easy. Preparing for it is the hard part. So much harder.
The funniest thing about running to me is, and I think this is a good outlook on life, we build these things up in our heads which are not as big of a deal as we make them out to be. And when you end up doing it, you go, that wasn't even that bad, you know?
What's next?
And what's next? Or on to the next thing. And like, that's where we went back to the whole like achievement thing. Like, you can't even enjoy it sometimes because you're constantly moving up. Like, you're so addicted to climbing the ladder. But, it's definitely a ton of mental. And like, the other thing I wanted to say is, there's not too many people I meet that run a race and go, I'm never going to do that again. Like, usually if you run a big enough race, people are amped up. Like, if you like the Rocky Run, you should try Broad Street, because that's probably one of the biggest turnouts for a race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the Rocky Run. Broadway's more straight though, right?
Broad Street's straight, and it's a net downhill course, so it's a lot funner.
Okay, but then you also, so how do you really pace yourself out on a downhill a lot? Just kind of going with the flow, being very light on your feet, I'm guessing, right?
I think so. One key is I'm kind of a victim of what?
Just so you don't put a lot of stress on the quads,
If you want to, I don't typically do this, but you shorten your stride.
Meaning just less,
longer steps? Like, it's shorter steps.
Yeah.
But I don't typically do that. I just go out and rip it. But what I try to do is, I tell people this all the time, like, it's not about the speed you're running at, it's about the effort. So I try to pay attention more to my heart rate than anything.
Okay.
Until like I'm getting down the last 1 or 2 miles, and now I'm like, okay, it's time to go now, you know.
What's the heart rate that you try to look at when you?
So when I ran a few marathons, I think I was in the 170s for like probably 80% of the race at least.
Okay. And you figured that was the best?
That's a hard effort.
Yeah, it is.
If you're running every day just to run, you don't have to run hard or fast. Like, a mile is a mile. So if you run a mile, if I run a mile in 4 minutes and you run it in 10, it's still 125 calories around. It doesn't matter. It just took a little longer to burn it. So like, I tell people all the time, like, when you're running, like, say you're just getting into it, you want to run to the point where you can have a conversation with someone and talk as you're running. And if you can't do that, you typically running too hard. They call it zone 2 training. So it's like heart rate around like 120 to 130-ish.
But don't you think as you progress and as you make it more competitive, you would actually you would not want to be in a spot where you're able to talk to somebody during that run, is because that means you're pushing yourself to the limit because your heart rate goes up, and now you can't have a conversation because you're pushing yourself.
The way training works is you have 2 hard days, and then You have a day. Well, for me, I'm going to say I have a day off just to get the legs back. And then you have 4 other days that are them zone 2 days. The 2 days are to increase your lactic threshold, or I believe they call it anaerobic strength. I may be getting it backwards, so someone don't flip out while you're watching this.
It sounds right.
So you're trying to push your fastest paces on them days. So you want to increase it. On the other days, you're building aerobic strength, which is just getting miles under your legs.
Okay.
And that's like, I equate it to going to the gym. Like if you're doing...
So kind of reps versus...
If you're doing chest, you're not trying to do 1 rep of the highest amount of weight you can.
Yeah.
You're kind of building, you're being able to do 10 of this or 8 of this or whatever and more reps.
Yeah. And just kind of mixing up with those combinations of the strength, in this case, intensity versus just putting in those reps.
You'll get hurt if you go hard every single day, unless you have performance enhancing drugs.
Do people use that when they run full marathons?
All elite athletes use that.
Okay.
Really?
I mean, you look at the Olympics, how many people have gotten popped?
Are you next?
If I could afford
Is that something you would ever...
man.
Yeah? Is it expensive?
Dude, it's like 10 grand probably for everything.
Just one injection or...
No. The way it works is like for like running. So you would want to take EPO, which is like it gives you a higher red blood cell count. And then you want to take testosterone, and you would want to take like HGH to recover. And then what people don't talk about is like you have to get blood transfusions like weekly too. So like that's why schmucks like me don't get to do it. It's like usually
you're better off, bro.
Yeah, usually you're the chosen one when you get to use that. Like you come from a big university, and they go, "Oh, you're going to train with this guy now," and next thing you know, you're in Olympic trials.
So is it legal to do that? Well,
No.
if they don't catch you, you can do it.
No, like WADA. You ever hear of WADA? Do you guys ever see Icarus?
Because athletes get tested on it. You don't.
Dude,
do you get tested?
I'm telling
during
you,
a marathon?
this is your homework. Watch Icarus on Netflix. You will be shocked. It is an amazing story. So I'll brief you, but there's way more to the story. I'll just give you the gist. This guy's a cyclist. Okay. He decides he's a very good cyclist. He decides to do the hardest race in the world, which is like way more elevation gain than the Tour de France. I forget. I don't even remember where it is. I want to say it's Switzerland or something.
Okay.
Anyway,
in cycling,
this guy does this race, comes in 14th place overall, and he goes, all right. He's like, so the premise of it is this documentary.
And how many competitors are there, if you don't mind?
Hundreds, probably.
Okay.
And he goes, I want to see if I could get away with doing performance enhancing drugs, and I want to see how good I could get.
Yeah.
And they have people from WADA on, which is the World Agency or the World something Drug Association or something like that. And they have the heads of this guy on, and it gets into the Olympics and regular athletes and stuff like that. And like, when you look at it now, like athletes, like, listen, I'll give them credit. They do all the work. They do all the right things. But you need something for that recovery, man. Like that recovery, especially the older you get, you can't sleep enough hours.
Yeah.
Dude, do you feel like, let's talk about steroids real quick, because I feel like it's a good conversation to have. Like, do you guys really think that, because I feel like we've evolved as humans over time. Like, do you guys feel like we've either degraded or we've gotten better, like we've evolved?
I think in
terms of what, right?
Yeah, like physically, I'd say like
physically we've gotten better.
Okay.
There's different reasons why. The training programs, the sports science, and then the equipment. The equipment's key. Mm-hmm. And if you want me to go into it, I could go into running and how the shoes have drastically changed to the point where people are breaking all sorts of records. They added carbon fiber plates and this like foam they got from like aerospace, so like NASA and stuff, and they got this technology, and now it says that it can increase you from anywhere to 2 to 8% in the speed you run, and that's what everyone wears in the marathon.
Kind of like the push that it gives you, and you're able to kind of like run on the air.
It's energy return.
Meaning,
so it's
cushioning.
cushioning.
Can you explain that?
So what happens is there's two forms of it. It all depends where the plate's positioned in the sole. So if the plate's positioned higher in the sole, you're going to get more of a cushiony and you're going to get energy.
Less shock, right?
You're going to get energy return. You're going to have less on your joints throughout throughout the race. And what happens is it gives you a bounce back. Now, that's better for longer distances. For shorter distances, they position the plate lower on the sole. And what that does is give you quicker turnover with your feet. But what I'm going at with this is for all sports. I mean, if you try playing basketball on a pair of Jordans and try playing basketball on a pair of shoes today, Jordans weigh like 20 pounds compared to these shoes these guys are playing in today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The reason I want to bring up steroids is because, like, do you feel like steroids like kind of help with our evolution, or do you think it's kind of just like cheating our way to the top? Like, do you think if someone were to take steroids, that next generation of people, let's say a dad, he took steroids, right? Like, would his son be technically stronger, or like would he have the genes? I mean, we'd have to look at science.
Here's the thing. I see what Bill was. I want to go back to his answer because it makes sense. I mean, we've definitely developed little things like that will improve our strength. But in terms of the natural strength, which is I think what you're getting at, I think we decrease that, if anything, in my opinion, because people were, more physically, I guess, working and more active physically than we are today. Yeah, we have the technology, we have these advancements that help us, and as well as knowledge. But in terms of using our strength as people used to back then, we definitely don't, because things are simpler. So now I don't have to physically do something as hard as I would do back then. Let's say with the running shoes, I was wearing heavier shoes. I had to perform whether I wanted or not with more effort than a lighter shoe.
Do you think that was better? Do you think that was like better in a sense?
I mean, look, let's talk about running since we're at it, right?
Yeah.
Joint problems are just going to increase and your feet are going to be like dead. But with the technology that they have now and the shoes they make, it's less strain on the joints, which you do not want to have. Why would you want to put a lot of stress on your joints when you're running that long distance? You'd rather use your muscles than your joints. So that's definitely better that we've evolved into the technology and in these advancements. But in terms of strength, we just don't use that much strength.
So I got a question for you guys, because this is a debate, and I like to hear everyone's input on this.
For sure, let's do it.
What would you guys define as performance-enhancing drugs?
Well, enhancing your performance by having better recovery and the ability to push yourself further.
That could mean a lot of things, though. You could say
like, for example, this is why I asked. So the 3 drugs I named are all things that are natural things in your body. And here's the thing with it. How people are genetically gifted. So some people are going to have higher levels than you and are going to be above you in that. So is doing them things that are natural to your body considered performance enhancing, or is it like that's where the moral dilemma is? Like, I'm not saying one way is right over another. Like, I don't really listen. Justin Gatlin.
I like where you're going.
Justin Gatlin is maybe the greatest sprinter the U.S. has ever seen. He's argued, if it wasn't for Usain Bolt, he may have been the fastest guy in the world.
I was going to say, is that the guy that beat Usain Bolt?
He beat him a few times, but Bolt always got the better of him because he was bigger and he was a genetic freak.
Oh, yeah. He's crazy.
This guy is known as one of the best in track and field. He got popped in 2014. No one remembers or probably cares at that.
So meaning he was tested positive for enhancing drugs?
Yes.
Yeah. You think, would you guys say Usain Bolt was on steroids? He had to be, right?
Dude,
did you see those triceps, those arms?
This is a very cynical outlook. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I think, I hate to be like this. This is just the reality I've come to. I think that 90% of athletes are probably on it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
and I don't think it's...
Especially at an Olympic level, because you have to be trained for 4 years, with...
Here's the thing, and this is the God's honest truth. I'm just laying this out for you. If you had a chance to achieve all your dreams and you do everything you wanted to do, you worked your whole entire life to get to this spot, and you know everyone else is doing it, and that's getting in the way. What do you do? Like there's financial aspects. Like if you come from a poor family and you're the family's hope to maybe do right, but I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. I'm just laying out like scenarios kind of.
I think the question is like, what is the goal? Because another thing I want to ask you guys is because I heard this conversation before with like bodybuilding and stuff. So a lot of the people on the internet who are bodybuilders who look crazy say like they're most likely on steroids. But would someone be better off knowing, okay, this person, would they be better off not knowing that person's on steroids, trying to try their best to almost reach that naturally? I feel like that can almost be a good thing because of the fact that it's like, oh my gosh, like if he's done it naturally, like what can I achieve? It almost like gives this new peak, right, to human potential.
But then it's the other side when you know somebody's on steroids and you can, because there's a possibility you can beat them naturally.
There is the other side.
So it's like, if somebody is on steroids and you know that they're on steroids, but you're still there competing because it's still within yourself. Like, I want to win Olympics, but I know, like what you said, like 80-70% of people are on steroids, if you ask me. Yeah. But I would never be on steroids. I would want to do it naturally because I'm pretty sure those athletes still like gotta have this kind of regret. Like, look, I won this, but it wasn't natural.
Here's another thing.
You know what I mean?
Do you guys watch football?
Yes.
Do you guys know who
Not
Peyton?
so much into it, but
yeah, that's fine. Do you know who Peyton Manning is?
Yeah.
No.
He's on New York Giants.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, that's Eli.
Oh, gosh, his brother, Broncos. He's on the Broncos.
One of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Okay.
He allegedly, HGH was getting mailed to his house, and they called him for it. And it had his wife's name on the box, so he got away with it.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, that no one talks about that. You look at his head. His head's the size of like a horse. You know, his head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's on something. But like, that's where I always say, like, a lot of these guys are taking it for recovery. They're taking it for all different things. But
wait, what happened? I kind of missed what happened. So he got they sent him something.
He had HGH allegedly delivered to his house numerous times, and they called him, and it was his wife's apparently.
The name on the mail was, let's say you were ordering steroids and it was coming under my name.
Let me look this
they
up.
They just can't
be sure.
press you on it because it wasn't under your name. But they do know damn well he was using it. They just didn't have the evidence to, I guess,
just
catch him on the fact that he was using it.
HGH or something.
Yeah, because it's all like... Let's get to the tough questions, right? I think it's important to try your best to achieve something naturally. However, we're talking about our body that is physical, right? It can only do so much for the performance and the rest and the recovery. The rest, you will need the supplementation, right? Now, when you're at the level where you're trying to beat others who are using these enhancements that gives them almost double as much advantage, where does your level of natural performing go when they're on something that is doing double as work as you with the same body? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, but then it also comes down to like how do you want to when you win Olympics, for example, or when you accomplish something, how do you want to be looked at as like, look, I did this, or like I used drugs to do this? Well, now, look, 90% of our people are doing that, but then there's few that won't choose that. I mean, I would say same thing. Like maybe it depends on the sport too. If we're talking, look, it really comes down to a person. Like I wouldn't do it. Let's talk about running. Because for me, it's cheating. That's the way I look at it. Some people might not look at it that way. Some people might look at it, look, there's other people doing it too. So that kind of gives me the right for me to do it too.
Well, is it cheating?
Okay, I think what makes it cheating is if it's not normalized. If anything's normalized, then it's not really considered cheating if everybody's on it, right?
Well, it's only cheating if it's against the rules.
What he has too.
That's
how is steroids not cheating then? It is, in my opinion. However, if me and you are competing, let's just go with small numbers just so it's easier to understand. If me and you are both competing against each other, right? And guys, chime in whenever. So if me and you are competing, it's me versus you, and I'm on something, so are you. Are we both cheating? We're both cheating. Yeah, but aren't we both doing something that will determine the outcome based on how hard we worked because we both use the same enhancement? Now, when you don't use the enhancement,
it's just
because then it goes other things. There's other things to it. Genetics, right? I mean, you can't take steroids and expect for you to be like winning everything. No, of course
You
not.
still have to train hard.
Exactly.
It allows you to train hard. Like, for example, like Barry Bonds wasn't the greatest baseball player I ever seen because he took steroids. He was the greatest baseball player because he was able to train as hard as he did to be able to do that, if that makes sense. It didn't improve his hand-eye coordination. He still had to hit the ball out of the park.
Yeah.
I think the question is like, what is the goal? Because if your goal, I want to be the greatest bodybuilder ever. I want to be the greatest runner. You're going to do whatever it takes to get to that goal. Unless you say, I want to be the best sprinter naturally. Okay, that's the goal. So I really think it just depends on what the goal and what the rules of the match that you're competing in. Because
that's why I asked that question. That are Olympic sports, you can't be like, oh, I want to do this naturally, because you can't. There's people that are on steroids. I mean, you can, but what I'm trying to say is like, it's not separation like bodybuilding, natural.
It's all one thing, right?
Yeah, it's all one thing.
But even like I looked it up on ChatGPT about the Olympics and the people using it, PEDs and stuff, and it says the common use PEDs used in the Olympics is anabolic steroids, EPO, HGH, stimulants, etc. So it said, I'll read it right now.
I've heard something like now athletes can do this where they take steroids and there's this thing that they take that kind of when they're out though. Yeah, and then when they get tested,
here's the thing with the people that are creating the drugs versus WADA, who are the people who are testing. The people who are creating are so far ahead of being able to, they have to create tests to look for these things. Yeah, so that takes time. And by the time they catch up to that, they're already on the next thing. That's why people don't get popped in the moment. Like I heard on Joe Rogan, for example, they had a guy that was an Olympian on, and he was saying, yeah, the CrossFit thing at the Olympics is kind of a joke. He's like, people from 10 years ago that won, it's down to the 10th place guy because all 9 before him tested positive.
Wow.
And they were able to get him years later because they figured out how to test for what they were all on it.
And they ran him with the medal 10 years later.
And no one,
but how do they do that? How do
that
they
guy
do that?
got his
no one cares about 10th place anymore.
Yeah, and guess what? That guy got his moment on stage 10 years ago. No one even knows that guy that won the gold medal has it now.
So I think it comes down to the person. Like, what do you want to remember yourself as? Like on your deathbed, do you really want to be like, oh, like I used all these things to get where I wanted to be? Because it's like, I mean, we could talk about like, a couple years from now, it's like, who cares if like I ran or I built this physique or whatever it is. That's why I feel like with technology and like social media, like you can almost like document things in a way. It's like you can look back and see other people. I don't really know what I was getting at with that, but
all you need is the Holy Spirit's strength, just guiding you.
But the thing is, steroids are not like. Let's just be honest. Like, are steroids bad? I don't think it's bad in some cases. I don't really think so. Like when it comes to bodybuilding or competing.
Steroids, right?
And Icarus, for example, the guy said he went to a doctor, and he had this doctor on Icarus, and he said the doctor said it was healthier for me to take testosterone and do the Tour de France than not take testosterone and do the Tour de France.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
It's probably a collapse or something.
So he said it was healthier for him to take testosterone and do the race than not do the testosterone and do the race.
Okay.
Because
of how much damage he would go through during the race. Yeah, well, what do you do then? Right? So,
no,
look.
bro.
Well, look at it from I'm looking at it. You're cheating. That's it. That's the thing. There's a reason why in Olympic sports, you understand, Olympic isn't just some tournament that you go to. It's a very, very high level, what's it called? Competition. Exactly. So there's a reason behind why they ban it. It's not just something that you also have to work hard with it, but dude, it's crazy. Like it boosts your everything. Yeah. So there's a reason why they're banning it. If it was something like, oh look, we know these people are taking it, we shouldn't ban it. It would be different. We remember there's a reason why they do it. Russian team got caught in judo, dude. That year they performed like animals, bro. Probably 5 or 6. I don't know if judo got caught, but I know swimming did. Yeah, but like the Russian swimmers got caught, but we never know till this day if they naturally did.
Here's another thing.
I don't know.
What we were talking about equipment. So I can't remember what year it is, but I believe Phelps won a bunch of gold medals. But anyway, that's here nor there. In swimming, they allowed them to wear the suits. Remember they were like these skin tight compression suits, and somehow NASA designed them, and every world record was broken that year.
Wow!
Because of the suits. Now, they were banned after that. Should them records not count? Because at the time it was legal, but it's not now? Like, because it definitely enhanced their performance.
But they banned those suits?
But they banned them.
Look, it's an outfit, right? Same way. Look, I was actually watching this. It's interesting you brought it up because it was same thing in, I think around like 2014, 2016. Adidas designed a ball that was super round where you would shoot the ball and you would go knuckleball. That's why you don't often see this right now because they designed the ball in a way where when you shoot now, you can't really like... Because when they would hit the ball, it would go like crazy. You remember those times?
2014?
Yeah, when Adidas designed the ball, it was super round. They would put it in this compressor thing and it was all round. It was perfect.
I didn't know that much.
And obviously they were... I don't know how to explain that. I could pull up the video. They were just saying how it works like with physics, like the air, cutting the air, stuff like what goes anywhere. So they had to like kind of... They had to bend those just the same way you're saying suits. But I'm saying something that goes in your body is different from somebody designing something that helps you. It's like those shoes. If they understand it in a couple of years that, we shouldn't allow this, then it's understandable. The records, I don't think they should affect that. But
the only argument
that goes in your bodies,
I'm trying to say is no matter what point we get at, it's never going to be a level playing field for the generations past. So records are going to be broken by technology that the people before them did not have.
It'd be a problem if they weren't broken, right? Because we always got to be progressing in some way.
Yeah, we do. But if it's equipment,
is
it progressing?
I was going to bring up an analogy too because let's say that we're running a marathon and some guy decides to use roller skates. Yeah, it's like he didn't. I ran the marathon though, but it's like okay, you use this piece of equipment now.
It's kind of like at that point, you could just say he's not even running; he's skating. Yeah. So that's I know, that's
like you could stretch it though that far. It's let's race, but I'm gonna use a car. Yeah. It's like, are you the one really running, or is it using this a piece of equipment?
But that's just going too far, though, right?
That's what I'm saying, bro. They can push this too far. They're literally doing human growth hormone.
That's why usually the fairest thing when it comes to sports is you kind of comparing the athletes to their times, you know what I mean? You can't really compare somebody.
I agree with you.
Somebody that was like playing 100 years ago, you can't really compare them now because the technology, everything's just been improved.
It's almost like this. It's like a 2010. It's like a 2010 Toyota versus a Camry. That's like the difference in steroids and human growth. You got to put two Camrys together, maybe different years, whatever it is, maybe like around the same parts. But like stuff like that needs to be almost on a level playing field, in my opinion.
Because steroids been around for a long time, right?
So that's the thing. Like steroids isn't always performance enhancing drugs. Like the drugs I named aren't considered steroids. They're
PEDs.
PEDs, yes. And what they
Isn't
are
steroids
are like I don't know exactly.
Wouldn't
how
that
to
be performance enhancing? So your performance is enhancing. Isn't that what steroids do?
I think,
but it's not the same thing. Yeah, like for instance, EPO has nothing to do with it increases your red blood cell count, which makes you be able to perform at higher levels for longer periods of time.
Okay.
Yeah, so steroids are just a type of PED.
Yes, exactly. So it would be like EPO, testosterone, HGH. Like they're not steroids, but they're PEDs.
Yeah. Dude, same with saying in the gym, would your performance be better if you take pre-workout and creatine? It doesn't have to be on steroids, but compared to the natural, you will have some advantage maybe, but then at the same time, just like what Georgie said, I would not need a pre-workout to outwork somebody. You know what I mean? When somebody else who needs a pre-workout to, let's say, work out and have a good workout, I wouldn't necessarily need it because my body's already adapted to it. I mean, I've tested myself on that. There are people who take pre-workout, but I know that I can, outwork them, not because, I also took something, because I'm just capable of doing it. So there's levels, though. In my opinion, there's levels. Depends on what kind of drug you take and what it really does for you. There's ones that are minor, like shoes, because look, there were a lot of racers in that race that I did. They were wearing very nice shoes. I was wearing shitty shoes.
I'm not gonna lie. I wear them, but if they're legal and if they're allowing me to run the race with them, I'm gonna wear them.
It's kind of like how
the shoes.
Oh, the shoes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear the shoes
for sure. So people were wearing those shoes.
All the pros are allowed to wear them. Why wouldn't I wear them?
Yeah.
You match the playing field,
exactly,
right?
But
Yeah.
see, that's different. Look, the way I'm looking at it is wearing something is way different from you injecting something in your body. So like different type of like no.
I agree with
I'm
you.
not even debating about that.
I agree with you.
What I'm trying to say is that people think that these little things have a lot of advantage when it really doesn't. You know what I mean? I think to an extent, yeah, but what I'm considering right now as we're sitting talking about this is the capability of our mind and the way we can push ourselves naturally as well, and not saying okay, I'm going to rely on steroids. But
It's a very strong,
maybe I'm ignorant
it's a very
about it.
strong drug. That's why there's a reason
I'll put
why
it
they're
this
banning
way.
it, bro.
I'll put it this
why.
way. I could take everything in the world. I am not going to make Olympic trials. You have
Never
to be.
say you can't, right?
Yes. I haven't
You have to
yet.
use your own mindset.
Yeah.
You can't go
But
back.
what I'm saying is, it narrows the playing field. Like, it gives you that little edge on someone that isn't taking it on the top. Like, you're like, if you take all that stuff in the world, there's like, you look at all them people that were competing against Ronnie Coleman. That
Yeah,
guy
how do
was
you compete with
naturally gifted on top of being able to take gear and
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Like
but,
the genetics.
But you could take all of it you want and you're still not going to beat someone.
Yeah. So the question
It depends
has
what
to be
sport though. Like
be your
there's some
best.
Like,
sports that you can.
for instance,
I think
could-
bodybuilding is definitely like
Yeah, I
at
guess it
its
just
peak where
depends.
Okay, but if
genetics and steroids.
I could
like, you
take
have to.
all the steroids I want. I'm not going to play in the NFL.
Well, you can't play in the NFL if you take steroids.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you think?
Well, yeah,
I think it's all
a lot of people have
propaganda.
been caught with steroids.
They
I'm not
have
saying.
been, but they were back in.
PEDs, yeah.
That's kind of like what I'm also getting at is I feel like steroids, they say it's not legal, but then there are cases where they just allow these athletes to take it because the connections or whatever it might be.
Look,
And they're
Adderall's banned
for you.
But if
then-
you have a prescription for it, it's not performance enhancing.
Yeah, you
and
need
people
it.
can go around it.
The
You don't need
Adderall's a banned substance.
Yeah.
Apparently, you need weed to sleep, right? And these type of stuff. So
Is that a
they can
PED?
go-
It helps me perform
Yeah.
in the gym.
Obviously,
Yeah, right.
like I think what you said is like
More
also true.
focused.
Like
Yeah.
because you take steroids doesn't mean you're gonna play in NFL.
Yeah.
It's all about the work you put in.
Yeah.
Of course, like behind it, everything you have to still do some work. Like same with bodybuilding. You don't just do take steroids and expect for your body to
Exactly.
be huge. You're still supposed to work out really hard.
Yeah.
But I think there's a reason. Okay, how about this? Let me just put it in a simple. There's a reason why they're banning it because it has something, and it's so strong that it helps you a lot. That is the reason why they're banning it. They wouldn't ban it if it was something like light we're looking at.
I mean, I know this is going to be a controversial take, but let them take
Go for
whatever
it, bro.
the hell
Okay,
they
go for
want.
it.
Like,
Dude,
if you're willing
let
to
me tell
do
you
it,
something.
go
We
nuts,
love
man.
controversy, bro.
This
is all.
the baseball
this is
was
about.
at its peak when everyone was taking steroids, and the second that everyone stopped,
It's
everyone
entertaining.
stopped watching. You know,
Like imagine if these UFC fighters started taking PEDs, like they would look like literal like Dragon Ball Z
Dude,
fighters.
they do.
Kind of already do,
They probably,
bro.
yeah, they are.
They
Right.
do
You guys know
to
more
a
than I
degree.
do.
Of course.
Like, look at McGregor. He wasn't in that USADA pool for years. Why wasn't he in it if he was clean?
He wasn't in the
When
one.
he was in injury, the USADA is the one who tests for UFC, or they used to. I think their contract's up. But he was out of the pool after the injury he suffered to Poirier.
Yeah,
Why would you pull your name out of it if you were clean?
exactly.
It's because he was
Yeah.
taking a bunch of stuff to
And
recover.
did you see how he changed his body? He just got super huge.
Yeah.
And that's with everybody. Like literally search up all the fighters that are retired now. They're huge. Like they're crazy.
Yeah, look at all the American sports players. You notice when they get their knee fixed and stuff, they go over to Qatar or they go over to Germany. That's because what they're doing over there isn't legal here. That's why they go
Oh
there.
yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, dude, the way you can go around these stuff, like traveling to a different country or trying to approve something by saying it's a prescription, there's always going to be a way that people will find to get steroids and enhancing drugs, just like what you said. It will always be ahead of the testing system. And they know this. It will get exposed later, but then they don't really care about it because they already
Here's
did
the
it.
other thing. Besides baseball,
But it's a very
baseball
moral
was,
system, bro. I feel like it's all
baseball
system.
was the only ones dumb enough to have all the faces of their entire sport get caught and then put them on Capitol Hill to testify. Like, you think if they call Patrick Mahomes tomorrow doing something, they would do anything? They would tell them to
Probably not.
stop, probably. That's about it. But they're not going to jeopardize losing money in their business. Because that's what it is to all of them. It's a business. It's money.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
so in this life, I think the best takeaway that we can get from this specific topic is do your best in whatever you do, and even if you don't beat somebody, like I'm gonna bring a very realistic example: Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, right? Mm-hmm. In my opinion, all respect to Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman won, and as much respect to Ronnie Coleman as Jay Cutler for sure, winning that many Mr. Olympias. But when you compare these two people with the height difference, the genetics, the steroids that they used, it's just like, let's imagine Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman using or not having as good genetics, right? Just as an example, hypothetical example. Jay Cutler would probably beat him, but there were advantages that were out of his control. That's
Like
why he
height.
couldn't win. So
Yeah.
it's like, guess what? The man fought for what he loved. He did the best he could do,
And he
still
lost
pulled
back
it
to
off.
back, and he still beat
Exactly.
him. Like,
every
that's the man you
time, and
gotta
then at the
say,
end,
I
he just
respect him.
won. Now I don't know if they really kind of gave it to him just because of the heck of it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
know about
they
that.
did, maybe
'Cause
they
I
didn't.
don't really know what criteria they look at in bodybuilding. Because I'll be honest, Ronnie Coleman always looked bigger and stronger than him, but that year he beat him. So I don't
So
know.
it's like, be honest.
You have to be- you have to know
have the
bodybuilding.
right morals on just performing
Yeah,
at the
I mean,
best
look,
level.
in my opinion,
and you won.
It's all comes down to what you can live with.
Yeah.
If you could live with it, so be it. I mean, it's just for everyone else to judge, and if you could live with it, so be it. But if you can't live with it, then you're probably not going to.
Because look, let's look at Ronnie Coleman. I'm sorry, but let's look at Ronnie Coleman now. Look at this guy. He's literally, he can't even walk. His joints are messed up. His muscles. And look at Jay Cutler. Man still works out. He still looks jacked.
Yeah.
And he can do all these stuff. Yes, Ronnie won all that. But look what Jay Cutler is in right now. So sometimes people want to have a perspective where they would rather have the legacy, but in the present, they're not at their best, meaning they have a lot of problems with their health. But for me, dude, I prioritize health in these type of stuff, like living a life with, best ability to walk, run, exercise, than having a legacy to say, I did this before in the past. Like, do you really care about what you did in the past when you're here?
I think
just
Mike
fighting for your
Tyson
life?
said
I
it
don't know.
best in that last thing where he's like, legacy means nothing. He says, you think anyone's going to care about this in 100 years?
Yeah, something
Because
like
look,
you do like
everybody
live with
started
it.
Anyone's
clowning
gonna
him
care?
for putting a
That's
thumb
how
in his-
small we
it's
are.
Weird.
Yeah.
You know, like it's sad reality, but we're all going to be forgotten.
Yeah, that's why you gotta be here in the moment.
Yeah,
like this.
exactly. And you're 100% right.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this like archetype that I kind of like got from this lesson that we were talking about with steroids, because if you guys know Star Wars,
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker,
I've heard of it.
Darth
Yeah, for
Vader.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
What
Never watched
what
Star
happened
Wars.
with Anakin? So he was good, he was talented, he was very strong, but then he started getting tempted towards the dark side to gain this sort of power in order to build his empire, in order to bring peace to the galaxy. He was tempted to go to the dark side so they can give him power. He was seeking something outside of himself to give him that strength to reach his dream. But what happened to him? He lost his wife. He didn't have any relationship with his kids. He lost his relationship with like all these people. And I mean, he died just like in the hands of his own son. And
He lost his way.
yeah, he lost his way, he lost his sanity. And it's like, probably 1,000 years from then in Star Wars, like people are probably like, oh, who cares what happened then?
But it's so deep, right?
But it's so deep. It's like, how can you you have to live with that. You have to live with yourself.
It's a story as old as time. Like Adam and Eve story, the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Take
Exactly.
Liver King, bro. They were clowning him, and I'm pretty sure he lost a lot of people that looked up to him.
Who's that?
Liver King. He
Oh,
used
yeah,
to-
yeah.
And
That
anyways-
dude was on gear from day one, man.
And when he was coming out saying, "I'm all
I
natural,"
said, this dude ain't walking around doing all this, just getting jacked up, man.
right? And
This-
then he
his-
lost so many respect from people. He lost so many followers.
Yeah.
He's not even on social media anymore. You know what I mean?
I
Like
don't- I barely see him.
he's not as viral
I
as he
think
used to
when
be.
it comes to something like that, though, like there's a difference between these people that are performing and then like a social media presence is like, you know, like in the instance when you're like a influencer or something, no matter who you are, they build you up just to tear you down. And like I'm not saying what he did was right, but like there's only a matter of time before they tear you down. So,
but see, the problem wasn't him on being on steroids, right? Nobody really had a
he
problem.
lied about it.
He lied
is what
about
you
it.
say.
Exactly. So the problem is, especially
It's spreading
social
false
media.
narrative that it was the liver and raw food
Yeah.
that was doing that.
Exactly. So now imagine somebody that wants to be that thought because they were misinformed and they didn't have as much information as us. We're thinking that liver king can do all of this being natural, and somebody's like really trying to eat all this stuff that he was eating and working out the same way, and they're like, "Yo, I can't achieve this," and makes them feel bad. Then he comes out and says, "I'm on steroids," and this guy goes like, "Yo, F this guy." I was trying to look up to him.
Yeah, isn't
And
that
this-
the American dream now? Isn't that what everyone's doing to us? They're selling us this fake bill of goods and then,
No,
pulling the
exactly,
rug
yeah,
out from
exactly.
I mean, I say this all the time. I hate to talk like this, but like, you look at the medical industry.
But it's so true what you're saying.
But like, for instance, like I remember I was overweight. I was like 200. I was 70 pounds heavier than I am now. And I remember my doctor, I walk in, he goes, "Yeah, you're obese. You have to lose weight." I said, "Okay, well, how much should I work out a week?" And he goes, like the normal amount. And I was like, "Well, what should I do?" "Yeah, I don't, just go to the gym and stay active." And then I
Was
go,
your doctor fat?
and I love my doctor. Shout out to
Who
him.
would have
but
guessed that?
But he got me on this. That conversation, changed my life forever, regardless of whatever it was.
nice. Yeah.
But then I go to him. I said, "Well, what should I be eating?" He goes, just healthy foods. Bad foods in moderation. It's like, we put so much stock in these people, and like they are professionals, but at the same time, like I think when you want to get your life turned around, you have to go to like a nutritionist and not trust your doctor. Not trust your doctor, but like you have to see specialists. Like for me,
and just question things, right? Question a bunch of things and look into it.
like for me, for running, for example, what I've done isn't even anything worth even talking about to another runner. But like what I'm saying is, I wouldn't have gotten where I've gotten just getting a personal trainer.
Yeah.
You need a running coach or you need this or that. And I think when you have a dream, you have to kind of do everything and see every possible angle, turn over every rock in order to get to it, So I think there's a lot of people that are just trying to lie to you to make some money off you, but that's just my personal opinion.
Exactly.
I think it's the truth, brother.
I mean, they want to look at all the people that are putting on Ozempic now. Like, that's
how much
another
they're
thing.
selling
All
it
the
for.
people that are judging these athletes, like, is Ozempic performance enhancing? Because you technically ain't doing the work, So, like, now you got to take everything with a grain of salt because you got all these people on that and, like...
It's all system basically that you can't really destroy.
Yeah.
The system that wants it to be like that.
Exactly. I mean, they make money off that stuff, Like, all that... I tell people all the time when they're like, "Yeah, I want to lose weight." I said... Stop eating anything that comes in a package or a bag.
Yeah.
But it's all
Or
about
one of those
shortcuts.
aisles where they have all the processed foods.
Meat, vegetables,
Yeah.
fruit, water, supplements. Get your vitamins, your minerals.
Raw milk.
Well, you like raw milk?
Yeah, man.
Okay,
Yo, what do you think
I
about
was
those
on the raw
products,
milk.
like raw milk and all those stuff?
I think
'Cause it's
there's
a very
I think there's
controversial
a place for all of it. Like it's like anything else. Like you obviously you see these influencers.
I can give you my plug.
What?
I can give you my raw milk plug.
Oh yeah, who you go to?
I got Amish
You got an
Market,
Amish
Organic
Market?
Stores.
Yeah,
There's plenty
yeah.
of places.
I've been to a few
Shout
of
out to
them.
Lamilli's Market.
Yeah, Little Millie's.
My thing is, I like all that stuff, but like I have such a regimented diet that like it's kind of like
You're comfortable.
Well, it's not that. It's just like I
Yeah.
fast, so it's like I don't just go to the fridge and like pick up a thing of raw milk. You know, I have all this other stuff, but like I do agree, it is amazing with all the protein enzymes that are in there and stuff. Like
The good bacterias too.
yeah, exactly. Like it, but that's something the healthy people or the people that are in charge of our health don't tell you about. You know, like they don't
if you
tell
know,
you.
you know. It's one of those
They don't
things.
tell you all about the pesticides that are sprayed all over fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. You put that in water with some baking soda. Do you see that layer of white mist on the top of your water?
Yeah.
Freaks you out.
Dude, a lot of
even
the
the color change.
A lot of the nutrition, a lot of the advice, like the normal superficial advice is like outdated from it's still like 10 years behind.
It was
education.
created by the food pyramid was created by the sugar industry.
Yeah,
It was.
bunch of goofies.
Yeah, right.
They
To
went
sell stuff.
around telling people, "Oh, red meat's gonna kill you." Yeah. Then meanwhile, the person that's telling you that they're eating like a Twinkies or something like that, you know,
And
like,
they're dying.
And that's the sugar that gets you on the, you know, like on your, heart problems and stuff.
For
That's,
sure.
I think it's all about shortcuts too, because like we just said with steroids, a lot of this stuff can be a shortcut. And I feel like nowadays a lot of people are just looking for that thing that will just give them something outside of themselves. It's not something within that will give them the strength. It's something outside of them to give them that extra edge or that extra boost. And in some cases, it's not like necessarily a bad thing. But if you're constantly just looking for that shortcut, like are you really the one gaining anything?
I totally agree with you. I think that people are so scared of changing their lifestyle. Everyone wants to live in comfort, and that's not the way we were designed as humans. You're not supposed to live in comfort. You look at any other species in the world, they live in fight or flight.
Yeah.
That's their whole entire life. They're constantly scared that they may not make it to the next morning. And listen, we're blessed in the way where we don't have to worry about that. But like to not even take any personal responsibility, like to me, it's beyond selfish. Like for my health, I don't think of it as, oh, well, you know, like, listen, I would like to not do the things I do too, but I owe it to everyone that loves me to try and live the healthiest possible life, because then they get more of me. They get more of me with mental clarity. And I think it's not just about eating and exercising. I think it's about being self-aware and conscious and like all that stuff. Like I really think that people are so lazy that it's very disappointing, and you kind of get
Standards are low, man. The standards
And how
are
it's
so
normalized too. Even the steroid use, even just
Yeah.
being fat and obese, these stuff are normalized when even if we don't think about the way you look when you're in that shape, but just the fact that you're so unhealthy, and why should that be praised in any way?
Listen, we're all on social media here. I really feel like this. Like, I'm not trying to knock anyone, but my whole thing is I think that has crippled our society so badly
100%.
that people don't want to live a respectable life anymore. They want to live what people think that's going to be cool. They want to do these experiences that they don't even care what the experiences are. Like, I've been on plenty of different countries where people are just taking pictures of things. They don't even know what the hell they are. They just want the picture. It's like, I make my wife every time I say, I don't care how much it costs. We're booking a tour guide. I'm not walking around here like an asshole taking a picture of something. I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
You come back
Just to post it and be like, yo,
Yeah.
look what I was at.
Yeah, and like tag your location. Like, I think that's so corny, man. Like, you know,
No. You're definitely
like, go try to learn something, man. Try to educate yourself. Use these things as tools. Like, don't like, I don't know. Like,
neglect them, yeah.
Listen, when I was younger, I used to care about all that stuff. But like, the older I get, it's about like trying to make yourself the best possible person, and everyone else around you benefits through that. And that's my personal opinion.
It's like infectious almost, that type of positive energy. I always, even when I'm around people, if I'm like down or something like that, and like I'm around these guys or I'm in the gym and I see someone who's like hyped up, it's like, no, like I'm motivated now or something like that.
Yeah.
It's contagious. If, like you said, like, dude, you could be having the worst day in the world, and then you come back to your boys, and all it takes is one of your boys to say one funny thing, and then you start cracking up, and everyone's cracking jokes and
or
stuff.
one compliment.
One compliment. Like, that's why I say always to be nice to people. Like, listen, I like talking shit from time to time, but like, you gotta be nice to
we all
people, because like, the thing is, like, that can change someone's life, and like, it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, right.
That's my, like, that's just my personal take with the thing.
No,
but
it's true. I agree.
But like, that social media to me is just so poisonous, you know, like the whole doom scrolling and stuff. Like, I like it. It's very interesting to learn about things and be able to catch up with people you normally wouldn't. But
Dude, I'll tell you what, because at my current job is I work as a server, and the one guy who works, he's like my coworker. He's like 60 something. He's old, But sometimes he just goes on Facebooks and just like scrolls, but he's just like, he's so intentional. Like he's so like he scrolls on a video and watches the whole thing. And then he thinks about it, and then like he kind of like laughs a little bit. Then he scrolls to the next. Like he's actually like using it.
He's scrolling.
Like I could tell.
Present, right?
That's like no one else. Everyone's just like they're just like, whoa, next one. But this guy's just like, he's watching videos about people making food. It's like one of those food videos, and he's just like analyzing, it, watching it again,
trying to learn it. Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly.
And it's just like, wow, like I could this guy who's just like 2 generations ahead, or like, was it 2?
Behind?
Yeah, behind.
Yeah.
Not ahead. 2 generations behind. He's just like, he's using it in a totally different way. He's not brought up with it, and he's using it how it kind of should be used, like as a tool, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I say all the time, YouTube's one of the greatest gifts we ever got. Like as like men, like you go to own your own house and stuff. Like you could learn how to do anything on there,
Yeah.
and like I'm not saying you're going to do it to a professional level, but you could get by. Like before, you used to have to read books and like
figure
trying
it
to
out.
interpret it the way they want done, and like it could take you a lot of time, but they show you everything. Like I remember an old guy said to me, he's like, yeah, going on social media sometimes is like the equivalent of like going and checking what's in your fridge. Like you're not even hungry, but you're bored, so you want to see what's in there.
Yeah.
You're like thinking you're missing something, and like you're
and
not.
the addiction too.
Oh, how many times you open something and you don't even know why you opened it?
Yep. Yeah.
Like it's hard to deprogram yourself. Like I'm programmed, like
Dude, same
Everybody
here.
is.
Yeah.
I try to just put that stuff down. Like
It's like like Tourette's. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Reaching over, you know what I mean?
and
Flipping
then like
through.
you have the phantom vibrate where you're like, someone's texting me and there's nobody. Like,
Yeah.
but I think it's important though. Like when you do have these like
Distractions.
life these life moments, regardless of what it is, to try and really not take your phone out and like just take it all in. And like I like the whole thing. Like I read a lot of stuff about Buddhism. Not that I'm that. I just find it incredibly interesting.
There's a lot of
about
wisdom in Buddhism.
Yeah, like being present and like that how like just everything about time and stuff. And like, do you think you're going to be on your deathbed like, oh, I wish I was on Facebook right now?
Yeah, right.
Like you want to be around the people you love. Like that's it.
Yeah. I think this is a perfect transition to kind of tie into like faith and stuff, because you have an understanding of different religions, an understanding of faith and all that kind of stuff.
I'm not an expert, but I try to do as much research
none of us
as
are, right?
possible.
We're still learning, students. But to even like go back to what we were talking about is just a simple example of David and Goliath, right? Like for example, when David was faced with Goliath, he didn't have to say, "Oh well, God, but I need steroids to beat these guys and stuff." He had faith, and he had that Holy Spirit that he was like, I can take on him. And guess what? With one stone, with one swing, he put him down.
So I was just reading.
I think
you know that, right?
you were just reading that too?
I just read that chapter. Yep.
Hold on.
So,
After you're done, I have to ask you
I guess you
something
can
about
say
this.
this is
It's a good one.
just a story that shows one, the God-given power and God-given strength to be able to overcome these challenges. But at the same time, I think it also shows that sometimes we rely on the things that we think it is good for us, but in reality, it brings us to destruction, such as steroids and all these kind of stuff. And people are looking for shortcuts. People want to do things quick, but they don't want to look for the ways that are actually optimal long term. But it takes effort to look into these stuff,
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
the
so
next
bad.
viral video is going to be like, was David natty or not? Like, like
David
back in the-
Goggins?
No, David and Goliath.
Yeah.
But
it was David.
what I was going to go with that is real
Maybe
quick.
he was
Do
injecting
you
stuff?
guys know the other story about King David in the Bible?
Which one?
The one about him and his, I think it was like one of his top lieutenants and his army.
No, tell us about
So after all this happens, he becomes King David.
Yeah.
And he's
it. And he was very young too, dude. He was
so
18,
this
20
is the part that they don't tell you in Catholic school, but it's a great story. So David, all this stuff happens. He's one of his top lieutenants in his army. He sees his wife showering one day or bathing. So he ends up having sex with her. And then they're having an illegitimate child. And then, so David doesn't have to deal with it. He sends that guy to the front lines and has him die on the battlefield so he could be with his wife now that he had a bastard child with his wife.
Ooh, Oh, wait, I think it was the different girl. He lusted after her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
it wasn't his wife. It was it belonged to a different guy.
But where I'm going with this is it's a very like it makes you. It's nice to read these stories, about people being humans and stuff. Like someone that was so heroic in one stance could be.
Like, look what he just did.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally murdered a guy just to be with a woman that he lusted after.
And a guy that honored him, and all that. And dude was lustful after his wife. They had an illegitimate child. And
it wasn't even a wife. It was just, then she became his wife later. But
yeah, she became his wife.
When he first met her, she was just somebody that he lusted after. And it points out that it wasn't like love or this type of thing. It was just straight up lust. And no, I'm so glad you point that out.
But it's just funny because everyone talks about David and Goliath, and that part just goes out the window.
No, true. And what the another important thing is the whole understanding of being selfless and not being selfish, and just understanding that there's something beyond you that now you don't really think about yourself as much as you think about other people. Mm-hmm. Things that you like, for example, with you said you want to be the best version of yourself for your wife. You're gonna have kids later, all these type of stuff. And it's like you have this fire that you want to live for something outside of just yourself and to please yourself, because that's not fulfilling. It might be pleasurable at the moment, but it's really not fulfilling.
So I have this thing all the time. I say, and this is a very cynical way to look at life, but you kind of look at civilization sometimes, and we have all these really smart geniuses, whether they're in the field of mathematics or whatever they're in, whatever they could put. And some become lawyers that go after ambulance chasers and stuff like that. And sometimes I wonder to myself how much true talent, genius level people are we wasting people just because they want to collect a paycheck?
Yeah, right.
How
many people are not actually following their true passion, right? Could we have progressed more as a society?
But then, on the other side of it, I go, civilization's basically a miracle. You think about it, when you look back in time, people were probably back in the day when food was scarce and stuff during the Ice Age, there were probably cannibals and different stuff. Though, it was probably rough living, where food was scarce and stuff, and you see all these apocalyptic shows, whether it's Walking Dead, and you could see the true evil in people. It is a miracle that we've gotten to this point where you have to worry about some things, but it's not every day you're this could be my last day. Well, it could, but it's not to that level.
Right.
But there's a different struggles now. It's more spiritual type of struggles. Back then it was all more physical, but it has obviously both were really bad, but I just really can't say which one was worse.
Which one's worse?
Which one was worse? Yeah.
No, I get it. That's
probably spiritual though, because it's when you don't have that humanity in you, it just the detrimental and most probably the worst thing you can have. If you ask me, if I had to choose,
we live in a world of evil and temptation.
Yeah.
And civilization is very frail.
How do you manage to kind of get your mind straight and your actions straight to not being tempted by all the evil that is going in the world and the devil's whispers in the ear and stuff, trying to tempt you.
We're all tempted in one way or another. It could be small things, but I just read a book, and basically it was talking about so the concept of it was we all have this moral line in the sand we draw, and how many people do you know that cross it and go, I'm just going to do it this one time to get out of this jam I'm in or this situation I'm in. And you know what? Once you cross it that one time, you will cross it every other time after that, because it's always going to be, I'm done after this. I'm done after this. I'm done after this. And
it's playing with fire, which I always tell people.
It's the greed of human nature.
Yeah. How do you work through that?
How do I work through that? I really try to do.
Because you said you're looking.
I do a number of things.
Buddhism right now, right?
What?
you said you're looking into Buddhism right now.
No,
and
I
stuff?
just like reading about
Okay.
it. I like reading about Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, whatever.
You know stories in the Bible too.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I'm always trying to watch something on history or whatnot and just try to understand and maybe see things differently. Because, like,
For sure.
you know, like, perception's everything. And just because we interpret something one way over another doesn't mean someone's wrong. You know, it just means we don't say it the same way. But how I deal with it is obviously through working out. I feel like that puts me in a meditative state. When I'm done, I have appreciation. I try to eat clean, and that gives me appreciation because, you know, you're in better shape, you're in better health. And one thing I try to do every single night, and I basically do it, but there's sometimes I miss. The first thing I do is pray. When you pray, for me, what I do is I don't ask for anything. What I do is I thank God for everything I have. It's my family, it's my friends, it's the time I have with people, it's all of that. So then, after you're done praying, and you know you're not asking for anything. Like, for instance, like another thing, I thank God for all the achievements I have, and because, in my opinion, whether you believe or not, that's up to you. I believe, but I thank Him, and it isn't possible without Him. You know,
Amen.
and then after that, I go through my day from the time I get up to the time I fall asleep, the day I just had. And when you do that, you realize how many things went right for you that day and how little went wrong for you.
Yeah.
You do. You have 20, 30 things that went right for you.
Yeah.
And
that's a
we
lot.
all focus on them 1 to 2 things that went wrong. So then after that, I'm doing this as I'm laying down, so I could fall asleep at any moment. So that's why I said I can't do it. Then the next step I try to do is I try to plan out my next day as closely as I can. So it's get up, work out, run, get a shower. And then when you see all these things, you have these appreciations that people in the past didn't have or now don't even have, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's plenty of places in the world that don't even have clean water, you know? So, like, the fact that you could get up, or they don't have hot water or something like that, like, it just, when you start analyzing everything to that depth, you grow an appreciation, in my opinion, that is like, you can be happier and kinder to people. Like, even being here with you guys, like, I would have never thought that someone would have me on their show and want to hear my opinion about anything. I'm very honored about that.
Yeah.
I'm very honored about that. And, you know, it's very inspiring seeing all you guys, you know, like, you ask these questions and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe this helps one person, you know.
And that's
and
enough.
Yeah, that one person's better than none. And who knows what that person's capable of. You have to keep asking yourself, what are you capable of? What are you capable of to keep pushing forward?
I love that. I love that mindset, is because, you know, when your actions align with what you say and like how you live your life and stuff, it makes you humble. And you know, just like what the Bible says, that, you know, the understanding, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, and just the wisdom coming from God is the outlook on understanding what you couldn't have and what you actually do have, meaning you're blessed for what you have, because you are looking on a broad scheme of things on what other people don't have or what the world is struggling with, and you have it right here, right in front of you, without you having to do anything about it. People have to walk to get, let's say, their water. People have to go and drink a dirty water, but you have a clean water right here, and you can go buy from the stores as many as you want. You know, it's available, meaning we live in abundance in this country. So when you have that perspective and you have a relationship with God, things just become more appreciative, even if you don't have as much as you might want to have. You know what I mean? Like, even the little things you're okay with. This doesn't mean that you're comfortable, you don't want to grow anymore, you don't want to get better, but this just gives you the peace and the joy of the moment that you actually do have everything that you need, and that comes from God and His grace only.
I will say, before the show, I was it was a very, like, humbling moment, an inspiring moment for me. Like, you know, you guys had a little technical trouble, and, like, no one even panicked. Everyone was just so level-headed. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do to fix this situation.
And our lens broke too on the camera.
Well, that's what I was talking about. It was like, no one was mad. No one showed any upsetness. Like, no, and it was just like, okay, this is just what we're going to do to fix this, and we're going to move on. That was very mature and like.
It's just one of many problems that we face.
I know,
right? Many.
You know how easy it is to get upset about that? Like, that's why I was saying it was, I can't give you guys enough credit because I've seen millions of people that would just ruin the whole entire afternoon over that. And you guys were just like, yeah, whatever, you know?
Yeah, we got phones. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like, not a lot of people think like that. That would have been the end of someone's day, you know? And it was very
I
good.
can't scroll anymore. That would be their word.
What?
For example, if someone's phone broke, they'd be like, I can't scroll anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They would be stressed out.
Exactly.
So many other things you can do.
Yeah. I can't post my video today, like, you know?
And I think you point out a good thing too, because it's like, if the audience doesn't know, like we kind of broke Georgie right next to me, kind of knocked over our camera lens and it broke. And that it's not really cheap, like that lens and stuff like that. But it just goes to show it's just like sometimes like we still have things at our access and we appreciate everything. Even if it's like the lens is broken, we'll just get a new one. Like it's the end of the world. And I feel like I used to kind of live in that cataclysmic kind of mindset, which it's like this one minor thing just like makes my whole day just ruined. And it's just like, no, it's not.
It was
the case.
nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like I'll tell you guys like a little story. Like, I hate to keep talking about myself, but like, I just want to tell this story because it's similar. So right before the New York Marathon, biggest race of my life, it's a world major. The day before, I get shin splints so bad, I had to stop on my 3-mile run.
3 miles. Wow.
3 miles, that was it. And I stopped at 1.5 miles. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you know, like this never happened. Like tomorrow is like the biggest day of my life. Like I just trained 20 weeks for this event.
Wow.
So like I'm going through the day. Like I'm just trying to troubleshoot of what I could do. And I was like, we didn't come this far just to come this far. Regardless, I said, I'm just going to go out there and give it my best. I go out there and my shins hurt so bad for the first, I think it was 8 miles. That
Nothing until then?
No, from 1 to 8, I felt it the whole way.
Wow.
So it got so bad that the bottom of my feet went numb. And then I just kept going and it eventually went away. But easier, like that's exactly what happened before. Where something happened, you guys move forward and look, we're right here right now.
Yeah.
It didn't even matter.
Yeah, man. It was a great episode. We had a great episode. So.
Yeah, it was. Unbelievable.
I mean, I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into like the subject of God.
Go ahead.
Until we wrap it up.
Talk about.
When people say they pray to God, like which God do you pray to? And this is why it's an important question, in my opinion, is because a lot of the times people have beautiful faith about different religions and what they believe, but you know, do you believe in an objective truth with okay, there's one God and there's different religions all claim that they have one God, but in reality, if they all say it's the truth, it's a contradiction, right? So how do you reconcile with that thought, and how do you look at that? If this question makes sense.
This may be unpopular opinion, but this is just my outlook on it.
All right.
I don't think that we are supposed to understand God. I think that we were designed by Him, and I don't think one religion's right or wrong or whatever. If you want to believe in what you want to believe in, that's fine. But I think it's more or less like, I think what happens is religion becomes almost like politics, where it divides these people, and all it is revenue for these churches. And
it's like government.
Yeah, and like I'm not trying to knock it if you're a certain religion or not. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I think by having religion like that, we lose aspect on what God wants us to do. So sure. I wouldn't say I believe in a certain God. I just believe there was someone who created all this. And, you know, like another thing I say to people all the time too is, you know, because all this happened so long ago, sometimes I question whether God is our creator. And what I mean by that is you look at something like artificial intelligence, and we are getting dangerously close to where that's almost like a life form of itself, depending on what you define as a living thing. So what I'm saying is, when just because if it gets to that point, we aren't God to them. We just created them. So did someone create us that was created by God?
Well, look, when we think about God, right? Obviously, He's infinite. That's why we think of God as something above and beyond us, because He's the creator, right? That's an understanding that when somebody thinks of God, that's what they think of. You know what I mean? I feel like if you're honest and you have a proper understanding.
I mean, everything came
God
from God.
In general, like the
everything
name itself.
came from God.
Right, exactly.
But I think to not have faith, I don't see what benefit there is to that.
Yeah, because even with people that don't have faith in something or claim that they don't believe in something, you always do. You always have something beyond yourself. And I think that's kind of a part of how humans live, is you're putting something above yourself in order to achieve something great. Like the reason why I brought this up is because today, for example, in the gym, there was this one lady who was talking to me, and she mentioned this story, which was very beautiful. So she went skiing and she was afraid of heights. So she was on a mountain, the biggest mountain, and she came across somebody who was super scared. Mm-hmm. So what she ended up, and the lady was crying because she couldn't go down and all that kind of stuff. So what this lady that I was speaking with, who was also scared, what she did was she helped the other lady get down, and she said that's how she overcame the fear. Now, she didn't overcome the fear because, I was so strong, that I got through it. It's because now she put other person's needs
ahead of hers.
And she overcame that fear. So
like they just did it like together, right? Type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like she no longer cared about her fears or what would happen to her, let's say, because she cared so much on the other person. You know what I mean? And the more we live like that as humans, I feel like the more connected we are to God. And the reason why I personally brought this up as a central point is because if there's a truth out there, that doesn't mean that we will know all the truths, but it's worth seeking for what the truth is and what is the closest evidence.
Many gods can exist. It just doesn't make sense, right?
What?
Like many gods can exist. Like it has to.
Well,
be
according
one.
to pagans, it did. They had the sun god.
But I'm just saying, like
you
realistically, like if you put your logic into it, there's no such thing as multiple gods. There's only one creator that created everything, right? So that's why when I have conversation with people saying, well, they can believe in what they can believe, it's not a bad thing and it's not a bad approach. It just like they're really contradicting even their own belief, because when they're praying to like God, right, they kind of have to have an idea who they're praying to.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think I'm smart enough to answer that, because
I'm just putting this out there.
Like I'm just saying for myself, I say this all the time, whether it's about, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but like people ask me my opinion of like, oh, do you think this was real or this could happen? I say, I don't know what it is, but I know it's a good story. And like, I equate that to almost like having faith. I don't know what God or the Lord would look like. I think I'm sending a message up and praying that it'll be received by someone is what I'm trying to do.
No, of course, and it is because God can.
But I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they are. I don't really know. I don't think any of us were really designed to know any of that, or we may never find that out.
But we are.
I think
if we
how I would put. Go ahead.
No, go.
How I was gonna put that is. I liked how you said we can't really put God in a box or say that, I know God fully, because we can't. Just the fact that He's infinite and knowing that God created the world, how can us humans that are so limited to knowing things, we don't even know fully know
we
God?
Don't even know what this is. We don't. Just life in general.
Yeah, like we can't fully, I guess, grasp.
We can't grasp it. And really, if we can't grasp where we are like now and what's going on and why everything was started, how are we going to grasp something that's way bigger than that?
Exactly, and I like that perspective. However, no, look, to say like, that I know fully, I mean, know who God is fully, that's just
like
I believe a
ignorance.
little bit ignorant because when I look fully is I know what God's gonna do tomorrow. Like I can predict God because I know Him, right?
Oh, okay, that of course.
Exactly. So when I just wanted to share that to go off to another point, which is, but then we have evidence. Like, have you ever heard of Jesus? Who Jesus is?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you think about Jesus and what he did, the miracles, all these type of stuff, and then the fact that he was claiming God. Now, when we look at that example, as well as the other scriptural texts within the Bible that talks about, okay, Jesus just straight up says, if you deny me, then I will deny you before Father, which is going to hell or heaven, right? We have to, at some point, go to that far to think, do I think I'm going to heaven or do I think I'm going to hell? And is there, I guess, can I be sure that I'm going to heaven or hell?
So do you guys obviously believe in a heaven or hell?
For sure.
Okay.
Has to be, right?
I'm not convinced.
What do you think?
I'm not convinced. I mean, when you look at the Old Testament, it never brings up heaven or hell.
Right.
And I
But
think,
it's brought up in the Revelation.
well, where I think that, and I think
Wait,
this,
it doesn't? Can you search it up?
Well, when you think
There was judgment for sure, but I don't know if it was.
Probably not in the Old Testament, but in that's why there's a Revelation, like the end, like all the way to the end Bible. It just
no,
talks
I
about
get,
heaven
I
and hell.
understand that. I think.
So what do you think after we die? What do you think happens after
I
we
don't
die?
know. I honestly don't know.
What do
But
you think?
I would hate to think that.
We would
I don't know.
disappear?
I just think I don't know what to think honestly because I don't know. I mean, I think that's something else that's too hard to grasp for us, and we weren't designed. But like for me, I just find it like almost like very evil that there's a place on earth designed for terrible people that like didn't live a good life. Like when we have plenty of things out there saying that everyone can be saved and different things like that. Like.
Can I speak on that matter?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think you're bringing up very, very important points that a lot of people might, have the same perspective, and I did too at some point. What personally helped me is to question those exact things and having an understanding that when we do say that I don't think we can know these stuff is, in my opinion, a limited mindset. Yes, there are some things that we can say I don't think I will ever know, but it doesn't mean that we should stop asking the questions. Meaning, I think we can,
I agree with
get
that.
to an answer where we can say, okay, you know what? There's actually an overwhelming evidence that we can trust someone who talks about these stuff and have an understanding whether we can go to heaven or hell. For example, let's just even if we do put it in that perspective, there's a place for people who go to hell because they're bad people. Well, Christianity doesn't really teach that. Maybe other religions do. But people, even if they haven't read the Bible, they always have that belief that, hell is for these evil people. In reality, this is what Jesus Christ says, and this is what Christianity says, right?
So
we all deserve hell. We're all bad people.
This is my personal take on it. And I don't think this is 100%. This is just kind of, as I gotten older, what I've thought. I'm not, and look, this could well be wrong. I'm no expert. This is just personally what I believe.
Please go for it.
I think, and let me finish before I,
please,
because I have to get part 2 out in order to explain.
Yeah, go for it.
I like to believe that heaven and hell were created by us in order to fearmonger people into religion and manipulation. I like to think that I'm not Buddhist or Hindu. I like their idea of what they think the afterlife is and stuff, which is they think that we live the same life over and over and over again until we live a life of, I believe it's fullness or something like that. Well, you get the opportunity to go to nirvana, but you have to achieve this level of selflessness, like where you're not materialistic, you're a kind person, but you have to start out at the bottom first. And what happens is until you are able to unlock that.
Sounds like a video game though.
Because keep going.
Who's to say, I don't know, but I'm just saying I like this idea better than heaven and hell. Because at this particular thing, you don't mark people down to 80 years. You mark them down as like, they're progressing in life to be able to get to the next step.
But when we do look at heaven or hell, you do see heaven as being the everlasting, meaning you live forever, right? It's not like you stop at 80 because you died. You actually live forever.
Yes. So like even when it comes to like quantum physics and stuff, like Einstein comes across and says time is not linear. It's a loop. And the mathematics prove it and stuff. So like it wouldn't be from birth to death. It would be like more like a circle. And like, I'm not saying everything else is infinite when you look at things. It's space, it's, God, it's everything else. And I'm not saying we're infinite, but I like the idea of being able to progress and to earn your spot into heaven instead of going and being tortured for an eternity. And that's like, listen, that may not be right. I'm not trying to put down anyone else's religion.
No, you're bringing up
that's
very good
just
points.
what I like to believe.
Now, what do you think can lead to us coming back to somehow reach that perfection? What would be that? How would you imagine that person that reincarnated into becoming this perfect person that now they're worthy of saying, all right, I reached my fullness. What is that fullness?
Full disclosure, I have no clue.
Yeah, it's very hard,
I couldn't
right?
tell you. I like to think that's the idea to this, to working to make people make this place a better place by doing it that way.
Also, do you think there's maybe some kind of evidence that we can have to believe that we are able to reincarnate and come into a different being and
I don't know if
come
it's
into a different life?
I don't know if it's even that. It could be that life starts over and things just go differently for you.
But you don't remember who you were?
Yeah.
So what's the point of you living here as a Bill if you forgot that Bill ever existed?
Well, it's like something we designed. I'm not trying to compare it to anything, but it's like before online play, you had single player video games, and if you didn't save it at some point, it would start from the beginning again. Or if you beat the game, it would start from the beginning.
But if we do think that there is actually heaven or hell, right? Mm-hmm. And this is why I wanted to get to the Bible, right? Because when I was reading this, it was actually very challenging for me to even understand.
Let me throw this out.
Yeah,
here.
go ahead. Please.
Let me throw this out there. What if we were on hell right now? What if that hell isn't a place where you get tortured and stuff like that? What if hell was a place where you were surrounded by evil and temptation and you have to live the best possible life you could live?
Yeah, now, I will answer
and
those.
The devil isn't a guy with pointy horns and all that stuff. The devil to me could be a guy, or it comes to you with everything you ever wanted in life and to be able to turn away that evil.
And that's biblical too. I don't think to say that, devil has horns or, holds that in his hand.
Yeah, I'm just saying that.
No, I think that's just same thing with like putting him in a box and saying this is just him. And if I don't see that means I don't see the devil. But devil is simply a temptation. It's a spirit that comes to you with the temptations.
The devil's a shapeshifter too. It said in the Bible, he's a shapeshifter and can take any form.
Exactly. And that's interesting. However, I think if we get to some specifics, like let's say an example, right? So if there's that truth out there of hell and heaven existing, then we would want to question and ask ourselves, how do we go to heaven? Because obviously I don't want to be in hell. Because if it's true, dude, if it's true and we die and we go to hell, why would we want to go to hell? So we would want to look for ways and understand that, okay, if there's a heaven out there, let me look for the way to get there, right? Because in my opinion, if you're right-minded, you would want to be in heaven, not hell, right?
It's hard because when you look at stuff like
who would want to go to hell?
No, I agree. And like when you look at something as simple as morality and what we think is right and wrong, like that's up for interpretation. Like that was created by man. So who knows if that's even up to God's standards?
What, like good and bad or the morals?
Like morals in general.
I think
morals weren't really created by a human being. It was created from God.
We just know these.
God was, look, have you heard of Prophet Moses?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was basically so God.
Are you
was,
talking about the Ten Commandments?
Yeah.
Okay, I know where you're going. Yeah.
God was
But
speaking to him.
what were the rules before that? Who created the rules before that?
People had the innate ability to understand.
It all started from Adam and Eve. So
I know.
God created Adam and Eve, and they sinned. Therefore, God had to put some rules on people, and when you send them on earth, right? He had to like almost tell them like, look, this is the 10 commandments I'm going to give you that you're supposed to follow. When he saw people weren't able to follow these commandments and it was like everything was going really bad, there was one way he had to help people to go to heaven, right? I mean, am I explaining it right? So what he did was he came on earth and he died on the cross for our sins.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. So because a human being was already in heaven when Adam and Eve were basically with God.
But Adam
and he told
and Eve,
them not to eat the apple,
where I'm
but they
going
still.
with this is like morality. When you look at it, Adam and Eve sinned under God's watch.
Yeah,
because of
because
his
free
command.
will. Yeah, because of free will. So
And
like they could make the decision.
They had it and they didn't. You know, the fruit they ate from was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So they didn't know good and evil at the time. So Eve ate from it first and then tempted Adam with it because the serpent tempted him. And God punished the serpent and said, you will always be on the ground and you'll have to eat dirt the rest of your life. And Eve, we're going to make the childbirthing so painful for you out of punishment for this. This is all part of the scripture.
It is.
And then Adam, they said that, you're just going to go, you three are going to go through eternity of suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
So where I want to turn this on you is, and like, this is just kind of an open-ended question. Like,
I love it.
Do you think that was pretty harsh?
Yeah, of course, because
like that would be like you haven't, like, I'm not saying that story's right or wrong. I grew up Catholic. I went to church every Sunday. I'm not like saying that I'm not trying to shit on anyone's religion. What I'm saying is I almost equate that to you are parents and you tell your kids that not to eat any of their favorite food that's in the fridge this weekend. Mom and dad are going out tonight. And then you came home, they ate all the food, and then you banished them and their children forever for your house, forever over that.
But there's more that has to do with it, right? It's not just God removing them from paradise into the fallen world and punishing them for something that they simply didn't understand. No, because he gave them the free will to make a choice. The choice was there. Same with the choice that we make as humans. As much as we all have a choice to do good,
I know this is going to go
against
it, but I don't know if I necessarily believe in free will sometimes, but that's just me. I mean, I think
you can say it's a hard thing to grasp, but then that's just your mind, I think, overthinking to say, do I really have a free will? But you really do.
How about this? What makes you believe that you might not have free will?
I think some things. I think there's too many things that are coincidental that allow us to be here today, right now, that if one thing was off just a hair, that none of this could exist.
Well, yeah, because then you also...
Like, if the Earth moved like a mile per hour faster, we would not be able to be here. If it moved a certain amount of speed slower, we would not be able to sustain life.
So how is that connected
it's a miracle.
to free will? Yeah, because it shows the creation of God, right?
Like, so...
Free will is you making a decision whether you want to do something or not.
Yes, I understand that, but I think sometimes things can be predetermined. Some things are out of our, like I was saying earlier, with things with life. I'm just using the marathon example because we talked about it. Besides me training, everything else that day is out of my hands. It's already predetermined.
But you can't think that way because then that would be you taking away your own free will from yourself on purpose, trying to make things a little bit easier. This is how I would explain it, right? Mm-hmm. Because let's say everything is predetermined. Why should I ever do anything from this point on?
I don't think that, like, look at this, for example. Like, did you guys ever hear of I think it was the University of Tennessee shooter?
No.
The guy, so anyway, let me just clarify this. So there's a guy that I think it was the University of Tennessee. I might be getting it wrong, but it was a major university. There was a school shooting there. And the kid left a note, and it said something along the lines of, You guys need to examine my brain because I know there's something that isn't right. So anyway, after he dies, they autopsy his brain. He has a tumor on the part of his brain that triggers aggression and stuff like that. So how does that have anything to do with free will? He didn't choose to have that tumor.
He didn't have to. He didn't
Like there's
choose
parts
to,
of your brain where things happen that you cannot control no matter what. That we sometimes I don't.
How did
think
the guy
we're-
know? How did the guy know that there was
He
something
just knew
wrong?
there was something wrong. Look it
how
up.
did he?
I mean, it's
no.
Yeah.
It's a simple question, right? Because when we question from an emotional perspective, from an emotional standpoint, saying, okay, how did this guy have a free will to do what he did? How did he even understand that there was something wrong?
He could just
in him?
sense that he was more aggressive. Like people can sense
Right.
when they're depressed.
That is the understanding of a human innate ability to understand that what you're doing isn't right.
Yeah, he knows it isn't right, but he couldn't help but do it, is my point. So because of that tumor being where it was, or like anything with your body, like you're out of, like you could control it to a certain point, but you can't control different aspects of it.
I don't think a tumor made him do that though.
I think it's more
Well, they
complex than
cut
just
it
a tumor.
open, and it definitely was on a part of his brain that triggered aggression.
Yeah, sure.
But
there's
you
there's
could
a lot
make-
of things that might trigger my aggression, but
you
it's
could
still,
say
at the end
you
of the
could
day,
say
still under my free will
You could say
to
yeah, you can't
make a
prove that,
decision.
but scientifically you can't prove free will either. If you want to make
Yeah,
that
you can't.
argument,
You can't scientifically prove.
You have to have
I mean,
faith,
can you
just like
really
anything
prove
else.
anything?
And listen, I'm not saying like
Yeah.
I don't think free will is going to send me to hell, but like I'm what I'm saying is I don't disbelieve it, and I
it's
don't
both,
fully
it goes both
believe
ways
it.
though. So your free will sends you to heaven, and your free will also sends you to hell. You're making the decision from this point on. When
But
God, well, listen,
our
when
consciousness
God,
is
when God
making
came
the
on earth,
decision.
when God came on earth and said, he came as a, how would I say this? A servant, right? He served us, right? And first you have to believe that Jesus was God, and that he came and he died on the cross for us. He wasn't just some guy dying on the cross, taking the punishment for nothing. I mean, if he was performing miracles, and if we believe that, and the history, and you believe those history evidence that he was doing all this stuff, then you also have to believe that what he did on the cross was for us, right? Because he could have got off that cross. He was God. You know what I mean? So
He rose from the
there's a reason on everything that happened. Now it's the human that needs to like understand this and also believe that this is actually how it was. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, because it's hard to.
No, I
to
get what
explain.
you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah, I understand that he died for our sin. You're saying he died for our sin so we can make the choice of how we live our lives and
It's like do we want to put our trust in God, or do we just want to rely on ourselves? And
I think you could believe God and believe there's not free will.
Then that wouldn't make
But-
sense, right?
Depends what you think God would give us and not give us.
How about this? If Adam and Eve were in a perfect place, right? They were in a
Well, they
perfect
were
place.
in Eden was the perfect place. The Garden of Eden was the perfect place.
Well, yeah. So Adam and Eve were in perfect.
Yes.
They were in heaven.
Yes.
Now, if there was no free will, and if Adam and Eve didn't have free will, then why wouldn't God make them not eat the apple, or like have the conscience of not eating the apple?
Maybe
it came from their free will, because
maybe
if they were
wanted them to eat
programmed,
the apple so we could all be here right now.
Yeah, but
but
that's
then he can do that right now. He can just kill us right now. I mean, if he created us, why doesn't he do it
If
then?
he's the all powerful, he can.
So why doesn't he do it then?
There's no
There's
evidence
so many-
that he doesn't.
There's so many bad things. There's so many bad things happening that this world should be destroyed.
And
Should
in
be.
some
but
parts it is.
But it isn't.
Some
There's
parts
a
it is.
reason why it isn't, and it's not coming from God.
Well, look,
What you're saying also with a guy having a tumor and shooting up the school, it's also devil controlling the person.
Yeah, the
to make
devil's
him do all
tempted.
this stuff.
But
Not God.
Well, what I was going with that is, yeah, our world's not destroyed right here, but you go to
Well, it won't be
Ukraine or
destroyed.
something like that is destroyed. It's all consciousness. It's what you can see, is what I'm trying to say.
How about this? We can read some Revelation passages that talk about that, where the second coming will be, like how the second coming will be, and that everything will be destroyed. You know what I mean? So like those are just some things that we can just say, oh, like I don't believe this book and it's not true, because that's the thing that happened with people when Jesus came. He said, this is what it's gonna happen after you guys kill me, like after he was gonna die on the cross.
You also gotta remember
and
that
everything happened
it was
exactly the same way.
You gotta remember it's written by humans, and humans are flawed.
Who else was supposed to write it?
Well, I'm saying humans are flawed.
No, but it was God's
That's
word.
where the Holy
They
Spirit
can have
comes
free
in, right?
will to change things however they want. We're believing the best in them right now.
No, this is look.
We're
This
believing
isn't
God's
something
word. We're
to
not
say-
believing humans.
This isn't something to say that because, let's say,
I think this is the guide to make you live a very
righteous.
righteous life.
It's so hard.
No, this is the evidence, right? This is the history. We are able to test this. We're able to understand in what context was this written, understand where the text is trying to take us. But the simple matter is to wrap this up in a very simple understanding is God made the world perfect in the beginning. He gave them the free will because it's obvious, because they had a choice to make. They could have eaten the apple or not. That's a free will. It's a given ability to make a choice. Therefore, it's a free choice. So they chose to eat an apple. And because of the decision that they made, same as if I go and, let's say, eat 10 bags of chips and I gain weight, that's a consequence of me making a choice to eat the chips. This isn't just something unnatural happening. This is from the cause that I did. So because they did something...
I don't want you guys to be mad at me and saying I think you're wrong. I'm just arguing the other side. Yeah, like I don't want like you guys like
no,
I'm
please.
not like even the audience like I'm just trying to argue, like I'm not like this isn't 100% what I believe, but I definitely asked the question. I think the second we stop asking questions in life is the second we start regressing.
No, for sure, and that's why we can never just get comfortable and say I know everything, because we don't.
Yeah,
I
don't either. I never will either.
I love that. You got to challenge. We got to challenge each other. We got to even challenge the Bible, because if I don't understand something and I say I just believe it, that's just me being ignorant, in my opinion. So I have to seek for answers. Now, to get to the end of the story is when Adam and Eve sinned, we saw that the destruction, the evil, the bad things entered into the earth. They were banished from a perfect place. So now we ask ourselves, how do we ever get to that perfect place where God is, right? Because God is perfect. How do we ever get there? And this is what happens, is Jesus Christ comes on earth as a man, claiming to be God in human form, to show us himself, to die on the cross for us. A punishment that was not that he didn't deserve. He simply did it because of us. He didn't deserve it. In every history, in every religion book, it says that he was innocent, right? There's only God that's perfect.
Yeah.
Plus, he wasn't conceived like from human sex. He was conceived by God. So, after his death, 3 days later, he resurrects. And he said that you can trust me, that you will go to heaven. Not because you're a good person. This is what I was trying to say, is that none of us are good people. We don't go to heaven because we're good people. Because I haven't killed people, that doesn't mean I'm a better person than Hitler. And this is the truth. This is what the Bible teaches us. This is what God teaches us. Hitler is made in the image of God as much as I am. He did the bad things because of his free will. Now I have a choice to make whether I do good for people or bad. This doesn't make me a good person, because who's good? God. And I can never be to his level. But I can through the Savior, who is Jesus Christ. And me putting my trust in him is saying, I know there's nothing I can do to go to heaven, your perfect place. But I know just someone who did that so I can get there. And that's Jesus Christ. Is me putting my trust in him, is that free gift, right? The grace through faith that he did it for me and every single one of us is what gets us to heaven. Not because we're good people. We're never going to be. And that's why the reincarnation, becoming this person of fullness, it's never going to happen because we're already living in a fallen nature. It's our identity. It's not our actions. Like you being born in this world is already your identity to sin. Like you don't have to teach a kid to lie. They just do.
Yeah.
You don't have to teach them that, something such as like giving or hugging is good. They know it because this is an innate ability that God gave us, right? The spirit that we are able to understand whether something's good or bad. That's why we're able to operate on just pure logic. You don't need to believe in God. You don't need to read the Bible to understand what is good and bad, right? So when we do understand that, and then we go as far as understanding that we're no better than any other human, it's only God that's perfect. How do we get to him? Through only one that's perfect, who was Jesus Christ. So that's the whole idea on heaven and hell.
So here's my next question. Now I don't mean to extend this out. So just say, use a different religion, for example.
Yeah.
If they don't accept the Holy Bible, but they live their best life, they're going to hell.
Yes.
And dude, I think it's also a perception of
Okay.
what they think
I might
of
not
hell
want
is.
that. And to be honest, that's probably the last thing I would want. I don't want anybody to go to hell. That is why Jesus Christ died on the cross through very suffering death that he didn't deserve. Not because, and that's only because he didn't want anybody to go to hell. But guess what? In order for God to be loving and consistent, he has to leave people with a choice. Because if he determines your decision making, then he's not leaving a space for you. So he's actually honoring you more by limiting himself to give you that free will to make a choice. Because guess what? If God had a choice to make, whether you would go to heaven or hell, he would take you straight to heaven. But he respects you as a human to make the choice, choosing him or not.
Because then we would be like robots. Adam and Eve would be like robots. They would never.
Same with love.
Apple.
You don't necessarily love somebody because you have to. You do it because you choose to. You don't have to love your wife. You don't have to. You choose to, and that's the beauty of it. If there was no choice involved, it wouldn't be pure. It wouldn't be real. It would just be a programmed thing. So because we need that free will, we also have to make a choice whether we accept the gift or not, which is for everybody. And it's not like it expires. It's not like there's only limited space. Anybody can go there, and that's the beauty of it. No other religion teaches that. There's nothing like that in any other religions. It's always you doing something on your own to get somewhere. Fasting, prayer, giving alms to the poor, these type of stuff. These are good actions, but it doesn't come from us. It comes through God's Spirit in us after he changes us, and now we want to do good for his people rather than saying, I'm going to do this so I go to heaven. That means I'm doing something in exchange of something that I'm expecting to get when I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And it's not pure either. If I were to tell you that I will only help you if you give me something in return, that's not me doing out of pure care, pure love, right? When I'm doing something because I simply just care, right?
But
That's
see,
a different
that's kind
story.
of where it gets me, because what I just asked you a second ago is the acceptance of God. You can only get into heaven if you accept him, but if you're a great person, you can't get in. That kind of seems a bit hypocritical.
No, it's not, because that's very consistent. We don't.
So you could be a worse person than someone, but just because you have faith, you get in. To where if you're say someone like Mother Teresa or just a great person in history, Gandhi or something. Gandhi was Hindu, but he did like so much for human rights and stuff like that. He can't get in because he's not a believer in Christ.
But it's more than a belief. It's God. Put this like imagination in your.
No,
like,
I fully understand what you guys are saying. I'm playing the other side.
No, please do. Yeah, I like that. That's how it should
God dying on the cross for your sins. So, have you stolen something?
What?
Have you stolen something, or have you told a lie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and we all have.
Exactly. So that's a sin,
yeah.
right? So wages of sin is death, right? So you, me, Sadula, Mike, Georgie, we all deserve death.
Yeah.
So what God did, Jesus, was he died on the cross for us. So it's like taking a punishment for us, so we don't have to go through a punishment.
But he's asking a different question.
Exactly, I know. So I'm going there. So you're not putting faith in that. Is saying, look, I don't believe the fact that you, God, came on earth and died for my sins, because I don't think I deserve to go through this punishment, because I think I'm perfectly how I am. I don't think I'm that sinful person that I deserve to go to
And I
hell.
can work my way to perfection.
Exactly. But then it's like ignoring the whole idea of God suffering, limiting himself, coming down on earth when he didn't have to. Because Adam and Eve chose by themselves with their own free will to eat the apple. God didn't make them do anything. So now God isn't like having you do this bad stuff. He's not. But he understands the nature of human being. So one way to save us from devil was for him to take on the punishment. We're free now. Like, yeah, we still do the bad stuff, but we're free from that punishment of death. The only thing we need to do now is put our trust and faith in Jesus Christ that he did that for us. We don't have to go through that suffering.
I mean, death's guaranteed to everyone now. No one makes it out of here alive.
But then,
so you're going to die at some point.
But then Jesus dying and resurrecting after 3 days is just an example showing that after we die, we go to heaven just the same way he resurrected from death. Mm-hmm. It's like showing the example of defeating death.
Didn't he die to close the gates of hell?
What is it?
Didn't he die to close the gates of hell?
That's another. So everybody that trusts him, doesn't have.
Yeah, that's why he died for our sins.
And look, I don't think I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys know, but I don't think hell is just like how because I don't believe hell is like God making you. Like,
I mean, look, when
punishing
you look,
and it's all fire.
Every religion has something. I was just going to say, like, I'm not saying hell isn't real. Because every religion has, you had Dante 7 levels of Inferno, all that stuff. Like, I'm not saying...
People have definitely made up some stuff, though. I'm not even...
Oh, yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just offering another alternative. That's all I'm trying to do.
Well,
but we have to...
Hell in Christianity is... Let me explain it real quick, because... When people think of it, it's like this like bad burning place or whatever it is, but it's just literally you're just not with God. That's it, because you choose to be.
So now you can
you're just separate from Him for eternity because you chose that.
Yeah.
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, do you so you're a good person, you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, but you don't believe in everything that's in this book.
You don't need to believe everything in the book.
Okay. That's where I was. That was my question.
It's like the question is,
because that's the word of God.
What does that even mean, right? Believe everything in the book. Like, what does that mean?
I'm just saying that's the word of God.
I believe everything in this book. Yeah.
Okay.
You have to believe everything in the book. People who don't even read the book.
It's perfectly fine for you to believe in everything. My question is, do you not get in the second that you maybe question something?
Oh no, because
if you believe in God and Jesus, you get in.
Yeah, and this is where there's the second part of which I like to mention is, I'm going to bring my example, right? So I always had an understanding on who God was. I prayed, all this type of stuff, but I didn't have a relationship with God. And relationship with God was different. It's actually walking with Him. It's actually understanding that
trying to practice His teachings.
Right. And understanding that there's nothing, just like what I said, there's nothing that I can do myself as Sadula to go to that perfect place. But because Jesus died on the cross, I get to go to heaven through His grace in faith, in trust in Him. And not just blind faith, but the faith that is grounded. I mean, the evidence that we have that He actually did these things, He taught these things, and His disciples went on to dying for what they saw was risen Christ.
Yeah,
right? It's just such a strong evidence.
I'm just asking questions. That's
I love it.
Yeah,
and then what happened is when I understood that concept. When I understood that concept, what happened is I was like, okay, there's got to be more to it, because I asked the same question. I'm like, okay, there's a person out there that did good, tried their best to be a good person in their life, and then there's this guy who has murdered tons of people and says, I trust you, Jesus, to go to heaven. Why does that person get to go to heaven over the guy who tried to be perfect all his life, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's when that one example of you are not good to go to heaven because you did something. You're good to go to heaven because you were washed with Jesus' blood, because you have trust Him, that you understand by humbling yourself and having the humility to say, I can't do anything to go to heaven, but that person, part of him says, okay, look, I'm a good person. I can do this and that to go to heaven. Now, what that person's doing is they're doing good, and that's amazing. But they're rejecting that, just like what Georgie said, God limiting himself to come on earth, to die on the cross, suffering death for us. You're rejecting that. You're not accepting it because you don't believe that it will get you to heaven. If you don't know that story, that's different. Because God judges us not... Because we don't know how God's going to judge us at the end of the day. We can only know so much, but we can't know exactly on what criteria he's going to judge us on. We can know one thing that Jesus says is, if you trust me, you will be in paradise with me.
So what if someone doesn't have the access to the Bible?
Yeah, in my opinion, those people
What happens
will be... Yeah, those people will be judged according to their heart and their...
Okay, because that's where I was going with, like somewhere like, just like, what do they call that? Uncivilized... No, it's not uncivilized. It's uncontacted tribe. Because it's not fair because they were born into it.
Yeah, let's take Moses. Let's take Elijah. Like all these people who were before Jesus, they never saw Jesus. They never understood the story of Jesus dying on the cross. Well, can we know they're in heaven? Yes, we can, because their faith in God
before.
Exactly. And their walk with God was in faith and loyal. However, in my opinion, when you know the story of Jesus and what he says and what he teaches, you almost have like a bigger responsibility because now you see a full picture. At that time, they only saw one picture on you're a sinner and do what I command you. Mm-hmm. That was God. But later, it was, I commanded you this, but I also showed you how to do it.
It was more of like an aspect of you are my children, and if you try to live a righteous life and you believe in my teachings.
Yeah. That's why there were so many laws and stuff. But then later on, when Jesus came, it was all grace, like just full on love, saying, you don't necessarily have to do anything. Yeah. I already did it for you. And this is where the second part comes in, which I was trying to get to, is the fruits that we bear is through his Spirit, right? He says, I will ascend to heaven, but leave the Holy Spirit here on earth. And obviously that's not like, oh, now the Holy Spirit, I don't have the Holy Spirit anymore, but you guys do. It's just an understanding that the Holy Spirit, which is also part of God, so it's, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Trinity.
The Trinity, exactly. The Holy Spirit being within us, that transforms us into a different person. And now we don't necessarily do good because, if I do this right now, I'll go to heaven. I don't have that. I don't have that understanding that if I do something good, I'm going to work my way to heaven. I simply do good because I love God.
Yeah.
And if I don't do good, then I have to be honest with myself and say, if I don't help a child of God, I'm rejecting God partly, because that's also what Jesus says is, if you don't help each and every single one of these people, you're also not, because he says, I will tell you that I needed clothes and you didn't clothe me. I needed water and you didn't give me water. He's saying this to put in perspective that we have to treat every single person how they were made in God's image, with uttermost respect and love, because we understand that we are no better than them. And that's the teaching that he's trying to give us, that we don't do this ourselves, but we do it with the help and the understanding that he did it first, and now we just have to be the followers.
We have to carry it on.
We have to carry on, exactly. We don't do it from our understanding because it's hard. How do I respect somebody who has raped and killed like hundreds of people? I can't. It's hard as a human nature. But understanding...
We aren't supposed to. That's up for God and Jesus, because he said that, remember the whole teaching, he who has not sinned, throw the first stone.
Exactly, and nobody did it.
We were designed by him to be judgmental and stuff. That's one of our flaws, and I guess it could be at one time some of our greatest assets. So
yeah, exactly. Because there has to be an understanding in order for us to, understand that God is fair and God is just, and there has to be good, and the evil and the bad has to end eventually. That has to be the judgment day. It has to be hell and heaven. Mm-hmm. It's not something that we might want to believe, but if it's true, then we better believe it, because it will happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the hard truth. But
that's why I say it's no benefit to not having faith.
Yeah.
To say there's nothing after this, you don't. It's not like you get an award or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
We all meet the Holy Ghost at the end of the day.
Amen. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to take up any more of your time, guys.
No, bro.
No,
bro. It's a pleasure.
You know,
Always.
I just
Thank
like
you for
being
being
here so much with you guys. I try to extend it any way I can.
It's good.
we can definitely do more for sure.
Yeah, no, I love talking, you know, religious philosophy and everything like that. So I had a great time with you guys today. And if I upset anyone, I'm sorry. I was just, you know, kind of.
No, not at all, bro.
I was just kind of talking out loud, you know.
Yeah,
we don't get upset. We
no,
like
not
the
even
truth.
you. Like even the audience.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to upset any of your audience. It's just kind of like I was raised Catholic. I believe in Christianity and all that stuff. But there's other things that I feel as though we have to question in order to move forward and evolve as humans.
And you know what I like
seek
about
and
that?
you shall find it. So
What?
you're supposed to seek and you find
Yeah,
it.
and listen, some things maybe we weren't made to understand. You know.
And you know what's another thing about, you know, I guess there's a good thing about upsetting people, in my opinion. This is why. Because if you tell somebody, and let's say they're obese or they're overweight, and you tell them, hey, stop
Happened
eating.
with my doctor, remember?
Stop eating this way.
Full circle.
Will that really upset somebody? Yes. But is that good for them? Yes. So
I mean-
upsetting people sometimes leads to just you pointing out something that they probably don't want to hear or they're trying to escape from it, but you're doing them the best service by just pointing out and speaking on something that you truly believe.
It cracks me up. I just want to say one last thing. It cracks me up how people judge someone in a second for smoking for being unhealthy, but the second that you call someone fat, it's like, oh, you body shaming
right.
and everything. Like it
Like,
seems
under
like
what
such a double
criteria?
standard to me, you know.
Yeah, it is wild.
But
Christian
hey,
culture?
What is it? Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah.
We can do Christian culture. Let's do
Hot topic. We might as well.
Yes,
stories. Yeah, let's do stories.
Let's do hot topic. Why not?
hot topic.
Hot topic?
Do hot topic, yeah.
All right, bet.
What's this game?
You guys asked for it.
I definitely want to
So it's
check this out.
It's an interpretational type of game where it's a non-competitive game to speak meaningful, spark meaningful conversations.
Okay.
So there's blue cards that's an icebreaker. An example of that would be which Bible character would you have? Which Bible character would have the most Instagram followers and why? Hot topic would be should pastors be held to a higher standard in their personal lives? An interpretation question would be what does grace mean to you? And then a story would be how does God remind you that you are not alone? So you get to answer that
With your friends.
from exactly
Let's
from
do
your
it.
personal standpoint. So
Excited
let's
for this.
do hot topic. Has social media made the Christian journey easier or harder? You go first.
For me, it's a double-edged sword. I think there is, through social media, a lot more temptation to spread false narratives and everything like that. And it's just an easy thing to do. I mean, anyone could go viral for saying something fake, and there's no penalty to it. And you got a bunch of ignorant people believing it. But I think it is also, on the other side, it's a great way when you see this human that's living through his best way through life, and it is very inspiring, and it is what I would think that God would want from social media.
Yeah. No, dude, I would answer it the same way. It's a double-edged sword. You can either use that platform to spread the truth, spread good narrative with good intentions, or you can use that platform for yourself or your selfish
Sin.
reasons, sin, and just spread something that you believe and you're persuasive and you're influential to, target those people who are just ignorant or desperate for something, and you tell them what they want to hear, not necessarily what they need to hear. But what I've been seeing personally from social media in terms of Christianity and stuff is the way God's working through those people to spread the gospel and the good news is, and people coming to Christ and understanding that, there's hope and we can actually be united with God and live a life that we can be happy and fulfilled in. Because a lot of the times we might do good things and we might be good people and that's all good, but there's part of us that's empty, like that there's a piece that's missing. In my personal life too, I never had anything crazy happen in my life. Thank God, any bad thing happened in my life. But there was always something that was missing.
We all lived a life of privilege, being born here, and
Exactly.
everything we've had
And
going for us.
I went through a lot of things where, I thought it was going to make me happy. I thought it was going to fulfill me, but it always led to unfulfillment and led part of me being empty. But ever since I came to know Christ and have a relationship with him, it's just the type of peace where you might not have everything you want today, but you have the faith that whatever his will is for you is the perfect will for you. And you get to live that with the full potential and with the full courage to do your best in this life for his glory and the kingdom, for his kingdom. And what that has done with the education wise and just learning a lot about the dissecting of the Bible and the scriptures, all this kind of stuff, is, in my opinion, definitely a good thing, and it made things easier. So
that's very well said. Very well said.
Yeah. How I would answer that is, I think it's a double-edged sword, obviously, but for me personally, I learned a lot about it because, I would watch debates, like Christian people debate Muslims and stuff. So it's like it was like the information I was getting was a lot of information from different religions, and then since I had more information, then I was able to choose either one. I mean, I was always a Christian. I always had faith in Jesus, and I always knew he was God. I just didn't have that reassuring facts of it, which social media helped me a lot. But I think the best tool is Bible. I mean, when I started reading Bible, that was like the best thing that ever happened. But yeah, social media did definitely help me.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it's both sides, like easier and harder. It's been easier because I'm able to find like communities, groups, and people who like are knowledgeable in this type of stuff and see the good that Christianity does for people following Jesus' teachings. But it's also been harder because of obviously like, temptations, misinformation, hate. It just really goes both ways. You can either see it as a good thing or a bad thing.
That hate's a big one too, because that hate is
infectious.
And that's what all of social media is. I mean, you see everything that's going on with the politics and stuff, and it becomes where it's a sport. It's not even people want the right thing. They just want their side to be right.
Exactly. No, I'm so glad you mentioned that because...
that's very well said, Mike.
Yeah, because one of the things that people like to also do is what you said, use religion for their advantage and just to spread the narrative that they want everybody else to jump on the board with. Right? So if I, let's say, okay, Christians are these good people and everybody else who believes in different religion is simply a bad person, I'm just being inconsistent and dishonest to what God actually told us. Because God, like I said, God literally tells us that we are under his presence, we're all like dirty rugs. None of us are good people. So when I point fingers at other people for what they believe and say that they're bad people, that's me not following Jesus the way he wants me to follow him, is because now I'm degrading somebody when I am the one that has to be degraded, because under God, we are all going to be judged and we're all the same and one-to-one with God.
We're all
There's not going to be
sinners,
anybody
too.
else. Exactly. And we're all sinners. So, I think ever since I developed that understanding, it made me more humble and more open-minded to think that I can say what I believe, I can say the truth, I can tell them the biblical scriptures, but the way I do that and how I approach that with grace and love, just like what Jesus did, is essential, because I am displaying, if I'm saying that I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Christ, I am displaying how Christ has worked through in my life. So if I, let's say, claim to be a Christian and a true Christian and a true follower of Christ, and I hate that person or I bad mouth somebody, that's just me being a hypocrite because I'm not a follower of Christ.
It's very good.
That's good.
And Bill, we have 3 questions for every guest.
All right, let's do it.
We did this
Don't
last
ask
time,
me
I
about the
think.
craziest story. I don't got no crazy stories for you guys. I'm sorry. I
Question
live a very
number 1.
I don't think we have
Question
that,
number
no.
1. What is your craziest story? I'm just kidding.
I think it was the question.
The craziest
from a
story is
previous guest.
I can't believe you guys had me on this podcast 3 times. I think I'm
3
the
times?
most uninteresting
That's
guy.
the third
time,
time.
right?
Oh, wow.
This
Yeah.
is the third time.
I don't think I'm interesting at all, so I don't know how.
No, you
anyone
are
would-
very,
Yeah.
very.
Very. So the first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier in life?
It's something I even struggle with today, but I think you have to take experiences over materialism, because I think experiences help you grow, whether it's religious, whether it's culturally. It's very important that, and it's something I didn't learn
unique.
until later in life. Yeah, like the material things. they only bring short-term happiness, in my opinion. But that everyone's different, you know. But
No,
that's what I would tell myself. I think that's a flaw I had when I was younger.
Yeah, we haven't had that one yet. It's a good one. Number 2, if you had to give one piece of advice to the world, what would it be?
Just be nicer, man. Like, I know it's easy to say, it's cliche and everything like that. Just try to understand people and stop being at each other's necks, you know? Like, just no one's walked the same shoes. So just try to understand that and try and be nicer and, you can make someone's day just by a simple thing.
Yeah, I mean, how I think about that is I've been kind of thinking about this recently. It's like, who am I really to kind of like spit venom at someone who spit venom at me? Like I'm just a sinner as that person, right? Like there's really nothing I gain except like an ego boost for a little bit, like to spit venom at someone else or to get back at someone. It's like we're all here together, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we're on the same boat.
It's better to understand than just be understood.
I heard a line in a song. It said, "Love's going to get you killed, but pride is going to be the death of all of us."
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. How many decisions do we make off pride and ego alone that
you don't
cloud
even know,
our
though,
judgment?
Right? Like we make these decisions like unconsciously, so it's like built into us.
Yeah, it's an automatic response.
Yeah.
Yep. Fallen human nature. Yeah.
Third question: what is the biggest issue we face as a society, and how can we work to solve it?
This goes back to everything I just said, but I just think we have to stop trusting, these people that are trying to divide us and try to evolve as humans and try to figure out all of this and work together to make the world a better place and, better for our future children and everything like that. Because 100%. Just going on TV and yelling at people and stuff like that, that's no way to go through life. I mean, you watch ESPN anymore, it's not even sports highlights. It's two guys yelling about what happened in a game, like just to get
drama,
views.
right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's always going to get the views. I get it, but like
and then the sports betting instead of people really enjoying.
I hate that sports betting, man. That just ain't my thing anymore. I used to gamble on sports, but to me, it's just I hate it.
No, I'm glad because, dude, a lot of the times people can't come to a realization on how empty it really is, because what are you really gambling
and all the
about?
people
Just
are
watch
betting
the
are
game
the
and
people
enjoy,
that
man.
don't got no money. When you look at it, 90% of people don't even have money to pay that money. They're just gambling's it's a very sick thing, man. It's
trying to make something quick.
Yeah.
And dude, every ad, especially
like
when there's
gluttony.
big games, every commercial is about betting money.
Yeah, DraftKings or no free sponsors.
Dude,
Cut that,
UFC
please.
has 3 ads.
Yeah.
we
Probably
don't want
every 5
sponsors.
minutes.
Yeah. No free
Not from them.
sponsors. Don't even think
Never.
about
Not
it.
from
I'm
them.
gonna beep that.
Yeah.
You didn't answer some of the question. It said, what would you do to solve it? That problem. Like, what do you think? What's the first step we need to do?
I think we have to get a leader that believes that, and I don't
President?
think world leader, anything, anything. I mean, you look at the impact Jesus had, he was a leader and, people followed
the best
him.
leader.
And so it doesn't need to be, the political system to me is so broken. It's like for you to think that means anything to me is kind of a waste of time. But I mean, they're all making money behind closed doors, and they all are friends, and they're laughing at all of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're all, like, at the end of the day out for themselves, and you can't really know the full story. You can just believe what they tell you from the screen, but in reality, what's really going behind the closed doors is completely different. So when people think that, Trump can save us, or this government or this political group can save us, there's only one savior, and his name is Jesus Christ.
Everything
That's
in
it.
life
Amen.
is flawed.
Exactly.
Not everything, but you know what I mean. Like most things that are created by us are flawed.
Exactly. It has
And
an end.
there's
beginning.
no perfect political system.
Nope, not at all.
So I have 2 questions. This is from the previous guest that our friend Isaiah asked you. The first one is, if you believe or don't believe in God, what would you ask him the day that you meet him? Even if you don't believe in him.
That's Steve. I believe in him.
But we know he
yeah.
believes in him. Yep.
Yeah, well, what would you ask him the day that you meet him?
I guess I know this is going to sound bad, but I guess my biggest mistake or my biggest flaw in his eyes.
Oh, that's a good question. Very good question.
That's all I could think of off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, it's a good one.
That's very good.
The next one is
You ask. He asks the
Yeah.
question, right? Or did he ask multiple?
just two.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, go ahead. Go for
oh
it.
shit, I gotta think of something now.
I guess I'm just gonna make it one.
Yeah.
What is one amazing thing you want to accomplish on this earth before you leave it, and why?
I think for me it would be to raise children that make this place a better place. I think that would be the greatest accomplishment for me, that I leave this world with better people than were better than me.
Amen.
That's great.
Let's
That's a
go,
great
bro.
answer.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's the
Yeah.
greatest thing I could give. I mean,
Yeah, that's great. No,
Yeah.
that is good. I feel like with children need to get brought up in like a better environment and not get spoiled in a sense, or not get too mislooked or overlooked too
I
much.
think I've thought about this a lot.
Are you
And
planning
I-
on having children anytime soon?
Well, let's just say it's coming soon.
Yeah.
You know? But what I was about to say is, I think a lot of mistakes with parents today is, I think it's the home life they provide, and I think that they're not providing enough of the home life, and I don't think they're teaching these people the right standards. I think they're trying to push blame on everyone else except their own child, and when you teach a kid that things aren't his fault, they're not going to work harder to fix themselves and find
Yeah.
themselves.
They will find reasons to blame something or someone else.
Yeah, I mean,
for the mistakes.
the greatest accomplishments any of us had, we had a lot of self-reflecting before.
Yep, that's really where all that truth lies. And dude, even the parenting stuff, like giving kids phones and having them go on the
Me and
phones
my
instead of
wife
spending
already
time.
there's no iPads in our house.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
That's just-
going to suffer. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be times where I want it, but at the same time, I'm not saying I'm better than no one. I'm not even saying that way's the right way, but that's what I believe.
Dude-
They'll earn it when they earn it.
Yeah, and part of me thinks that when parents choose that easy way out, such as just throwing the phone or the iPad to the kids, it's them just pretty much saying that I don't want to take on the stress to calm you down or talk to you. Just go into this world that is, and this information of bunch of junk and wickedness, and that's the biggest disservice you can do your kid, and that's the most careless thing you can ever do to a kid.
I can't judge it all the way because, like, even when I was younger, I had video games, so I understand the other side of it, to where like that was a distracting thing that like let my parents like clean up the floor
just
for
has
like
to be under
5
control.
seconds. Yeah, but yeah, it's like anything else. It's in moderation.
For sure. Yep.
And I'm just gonna ask this last question because it was like kind of short of an answer. If you were to create or innovate an idea or a solution or anything that could solve a major problem, what is the problem that you want to solve?
Maybe within the running industry or
I
something.
think we got someone that's doing it now, but I mean, I don't know if he's doing it. I don't know if he's full of it, but I think RFK with the whole health reform with, fitness and eating right and trying to get these chemicals out of our food, I think that's something good. And I think there's a ton of people that are doing the same thing as him, but whether it will get done or not, that's another. There's a lot of money in junk food,
Yeah. What do you think people need? Like, is it education or is it just
I think it's
accessibility?
I think it's something that has to be taught from a young age. Yeah. And I was telling you before podcast, I said Japan has 4% obesity rate among their citizens. Their schools have nutritionists that work in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
That cook whole foods. To here, they hand you a Lunchable.
Dude, it's crazy.
Like, what is that? That's not even a food.
You let a Lunchable sit out for days, there won't even be mold on it.
Yeah, right.
Culture's so different because sometimes, like, I don't know why, but in my free time, I'd watch, like, day in the life of, like, Japan students. Yeah. Sometimes on like
you
YouTube.
See the cram schools and everything?
Yeah, and it just looks honestly peaceful. It looks
they don't know no different.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
He said little kids would take trains at 9 a.m. and they would just be sitting. Like he said, there was no noise, nothing. They weren't crying. There weren't kids just making noise. They
Their
were
standards.
like mature adults.
Yeah,
At the
when I
age
was
of
there,
probably 10, 11.
They
This is
after
wild.
school they went from 3 to 7 o'clock to a cram school to learn more,
Yeah, bro.
and we
Yeah.
think we got so bad.
And look, the results speak for itself. Look at Japan and look at their technology. Look at how they're evolved. Look at their culture.
Look at their health.
Look at their people. Look at their health.
Look at their morals.
Look at their morals too.
They
yeah.
Their
take care-
happiness. I mean, they're just super happy and genuine people. I don't meet a person who's Japanese and think, oh, this person's an asshole. That's
When-
Americans.
Yeah, it is. And here's the other thing: when you go to Japan, I don't care what the job is. They are doing that job in the moment to 100% of their capability.
Yeah.
They're not on their phones. They're not doing it. You walk in the store, someone asks you what you need, how they could help. They'll follow you around until they could help you.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the public streets clean as hell.
Dude, look at even the anime and stuff and what kind of impact that has brought into people's interest. That just shows the creation of the Japanese.
It's more deep. Like Japanese culture is
Culture, yeah.
super deep.
It's all
and
honor.
personal.
But it's
Honor.
quality.
Yeah.
Why would people
Yeah.
sit down and watch so many episodes and just and why is anime so popular? It's because they have produced work that is so quality that so many people are interested in because there's so much depth into it. And people just love it.
Yeah, versus like
Speaks for
let's talk
itself.
about Western culture in America. It's like a lot of it is superficial and it's individualistic.
Yeah.
I think I said that word right.
Yeah, I mean, everything is about. Everyone can't wait till the next meal they're about to eat, how good it's going to be, and when they get home from work, they can watch whatever they want on TV.
Yeah, everyone's divided, like you said.
It is. They got us right where they want us.
Yeah,
They do.
Matrix.
Yeah.
We just gotta go against that.
yeah.
Yeah. Go against the Matrix.
Last thing, Bill, is a question for the next guest.
Yes.
It could be anything.
Okay, I would say. I want to keep it religious.
Only
'cause
one question this time.
Okay, one question.
We're keeping each guest one question.
What would their idea of heaven be?
Interesting.
Is that it?
Yeah, what their
Just heaven
idea?
or heaven and hell? I think it would be
You
good.
could do heaven and hell.
Yeah, let's do
Like,
that.
what would you think it is? Like, if
Yeah.
you could paint the picture for your audience, what would their idea be?
Yep.
Okay.
a good
Or
one.
what would Satan, I mean, obviously he's shape shifting and stuff like that, but how would Satan come to them and what shape and form?
Oh yeah. And then what we will do is we will open up the scripture and say what it says in there.
Yeah. No, but you know
So,
what I mean?
yeah.
Because Satan will come to you with exactly what you want. So it has
Right.
to be exactly what that person wants.
Because like, who knows you the best after God? Satan. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So
All right, Bill. Well, that wraps it up for today. It was a
What
really
was
good
that,
episode.
3 hours? Jesus.
2
It's
hours,
covered
2 hours and
everything.
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah, just about
Sorry
40
about
minutes.
that.
dude, sorry. That was
Your audience is going to be out after 10 minutes to hear me talk.
or if they're still watching.
It's
Yeah.
documented though. Like we could always look back at this conversation and be like, "Wow, this was a great conversation."
I hope it was for you guys. I
100%,
hope I
bro.
could
Always
give
a
you
pleasure.
whatever I can, with everything, because I really support you guys, and I think what you guys are doing are amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'd love to have you on again in the future as well. Another
Whenever-
season, whatever it is.
Whenever you want. I'm not busy. I live a very boring life. I get up
You're out
early.
running though. You're
I get
running.
up early, work out. I work, and then I go home to my family. That's it. I'm
Boom.
sorry.
Boring,
Dude, you know what?
sometimes boring life is better than
Quiet life,
quiet.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Simple lifestyle, simple life is sometimes rich in depth in things that you should actually prioritize than the things that are actually not important. It's just family, hardworking man, humble.
Trying to learn.
Exactly. These type of stuff is the attribute that a lot of men and a lot of people in general need. So we really appreciate who you are and the fact that you put time aside to come on
I
our podcast.
can't tell you how gracious I am for that. I
Thank
really
you.
am. What I gotta ask, is this the longest podcast you guys have done?
No,
No,
we've done
Probably
Oh,
one of
thank
the.
God.
The,
Our last
the
one
one
was
before
3
this,
hours, yeah.
it was
I
3
was
hours.
sitting here, I was like, oh my God, I hope these guys
This is
don't run
definitely-
out of tape.
This is definitely the top 3
I think we'll be
of
good.
the longest.
You're going to have to buy more cloud storage.
After we buy a new camera.
Yeah,
lens.
exactly. But hey, you guys will get one and it'll be all good. And it'll
Yeah,
be
man.
something you laugh about in a couple years
yeah,
from now.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right, we like our guests to share quote of the day,
Okay.
and then we'll do the shout out.
Okay, the quote
So
of the
take
day
on.
we got here is life is made up of challenges that can't be solved but only accepted. Roger Ebert. That is very good.
Thank you,
That's
Roger.
amazing, yeah.
That is very, very good.
Because you did talk about this too, and you shared your own perspective on the fact that you can't necessarily deflect or try to push away the challenge. You can only just understand that it is what it is and just do your best to, make the most out of it.
I got a million stories to tell you guys. I'll tell you off the air though. So
No, you know what? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll tell you off the air.
Give us one. If it's so many.
No, I had a major workout that was like a key workout for this half marathon coming up. And like it was like you have to hit these certain paces. So me and my wife were in Clearwater for the thing. I was like, oh, I'll do it. It'll be nice out, whatever. It was 20-mile-an-hour winds with 30-mile-an-hour gusts. That was the worst run I ever had. I was getting blown all over the place. The wind was coming right in my face.
Yeah, that's
But that's the quote of the day.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, that's-
All I
to
could do
overcome.
was give it my best shot that day.
Exactly. And that's the best perspective you can really have.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout
Who's
out.
gonna do the shout out? I'll do the shout out. It's on TikTok by Samuel.
Are we back on TikTok?
Yeah, bro. I think
Oh man, the government didn't take it away yet.
Yeah.
at Samuel _asked_of_ God. Interesting name. Yeah, if you're cheating, then you need to first find God, because no true God-fearing man would ever consider that you've got to fix yourself before even getting a relationship. And that is true, my friend. Thank you for that comment. And this
Thank
was
you.
about a video when
With Jaden.
no, when Mike was saying that, let's say if you cheated on your wife or your girlfriend, you have to
Wasn't
go
it with Jaden, though?
No,
No?
with obedience and tell her the truth, tell her what you did, and really work through that problem and try to fix it as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we're talking about that was on Eugene's episode, probably.
No, that was just when it was us talking about what it means to be a true Christian. And
Yeah, I remember.
We're talking about being obedient to God and just letting God, with obedience, trusting Him to fix your life. But you have to do sometimes the things that you don't want to do. It's like, you're like, oh, I have to now tell her that I cheated on her. Is that something you want to do? Probably not. But is that something you should do? Yes. And yeah, that's the point we were trying to get at.
The right thing to do is always the hard thing to do.
Yep. But it's
Yeah.
always right, and that's what makes it good. All right, well,
Never
Bill, do you remember our last closing statement before we
Ooh.
leave?
2 times, man. You've been on it third time now.
No, I remember
You can't
the
forget
first
it
one.
after
The
this.
first closing statement. Are you talking about the quote of the day or the closing
No,
statement?
it's think big, and then there's
I don't know. I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
fine. That's fine. Ready?
Think big and what?
grow big.
Think big and grow big.
Yeah.
Think big, grow,
Grow
big.
big.
I won't
Peace.
forget it a 4th time.
No.
I promise.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming on,
guys,
Brian.
my
Thank you.
pleasure, man. Thank you
Oh,
for the
it's good.
conversation. That was very
Good.
good.